This girl was blind, and it completely messed with her head, you know? She felt so self-conscious and cut off from everyone. And because her family was dirt poor, she'd basically given up on ever getting her sight back. But then, out of the blue, her mom just insisted on dragging her to the hospital for a checkup. Even though they barely had 2 pennies to rub together, the mom couldn't stand the thought of her daughter not seeing all the amazing stuff life has to offer. The doctor said, "In a few days after the surgery, your daughter won't be blind anymore. And once she can see, you two can work your tails off and pay back all the money." But guess what? Right before the surgery, disaster struck the family. In broad daylight, this blind girl somehow found the guts to confess her feelings to a guy. And the way she did it? Totally bizarre. They just met, but she straight up dragged him to a hotel. He was completely taken by surprise and didn't know what was going on. All he could do was awkwardly watch her pay for the room. He could feel the hotel receptionist giving him major side-eye, but he was totally helpless. Darim's family ran this tiny little laundromat down the street. Her grandparents had worked themselves to the bone their whole lives, hoping their son would pass the civil service exam. That was their big dream. They basically lived and breathed that laundromat, sacrificing everything. For years, their son, Darim's father, studied day and night, rain or shine. He was hitting the books from the time he got married until his 3 kids were all in elementary school. He studied and studied, but he still never passed the exam, never brought that honor back to the family. From the day she married Darim's dad, her mom had to shoulder everything, taking care of her in-laws when they were sick, raising the kids, everything was on her. She worked her butt off, but the family was still barely scraping by because there were just too many mouths to feed. She would look at her husband, just studying all the time, and she'd just get furious. He was supposed to be in his prime, but he was basically useless. He couldn't help with the chores or with the kids, and he was a huge financial burden. Whenever she thought about her deadbeat husband, she'd just burst into tears and cry to her mother-in-law. But you know what they say, when it rains, it pours. Even though her husband was a loser in many ways, he was still the family's emotional rock. And then, one day he was gone. He got sick, and even though he wasn't old, he died. At the funeral, Darim's grandparents were inconsolable, weeping for their son. That's when Darim's aunt stood up and started screaming at her parents. In her eyes, her brother, who never earned a dime in his life, was nothing but a failure. Seeing her family falling apart, Darim's mom just sat there in a corner, heartbroken, hugging her 3 kids. She had no idea how they were going to survive now that her husband was gone for good. After the funeral, Darim's mom had to put on a brave face for her children. That day, she made the kids wait by the door while she went into the kitchen to prepare a big, comforting meal with all their favorite foods. There's an old saying, you can't do great things on an empty stomach, so she hoped this would lift everyone's spirits. Luckily, her kids were amazing, really understanding and sympathetic to everything their mom was going through. Even though they were all young, they were already thinking about how they could help her and share the burden. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, Darim and her siblings had grown up. Those years weren't easy. There were plenty of hardships, but the family always managed to stick together and find happiness. Life went on like this until one day they discovered Darim had retinitis pigmentosa. What made it even worse was that it's a super rare disease. Right now, her vision was only 0.2, 20/100 in US terms, and her field of vision was getting smaller and smaller. The doctor warned her that if they didn't do something soon, she was going to go blind. You gotta understand, when Darim was a kid, her eyes were like freaking headlights. Even from super far away, she could see a sesame seed stuck in her teacher's teeth. She could even read the tiniest letters on the eye chart. It was unbelievable that someone with eyes like that could end up with a rare eye disease. Just when Darim was feeling completely hopeless, the doctor gave her some good news. The Ministry of Health had developed a new drug specifically for people with this condition. 7 patients had already used it, and their vision had all been restored to normal. But the drug needed to be injected as soon as possible. If her retina completely deteriorated, the drug wouldn't work. So, the doctor told her to bring her parents next time so they could discuss the treatment plan. Darim was so happy when she heard that there was a medicine that could cure her. But as soon as she heard the cost, her heart sank. She couldn't afford the 800 million won for the treatment, so she had to give up on the idea of getting better. Lately, because her eyesight was so bad, Darim had to rely on a navigation app to get around. Without it, she couldn't even tell the color of the traffic lights. But then, The sound of lighter flicking from someone walking by totally messed with her hearing. It was like nails on a chalkboard. She lost it and swore under her breath as she passed the guy making the noise. Hearing Darim mutter the curse, the man suddenly lost his focus. Because of that, he got hit by a car and went flying a few feet. As he lay there on the ground in pain, he managed to lift his head to get a look at Darim's face. And it was like a punch to the gut. The scene felt so familiar, like he'd seen her silhouette somewhere before. 8 years back, when they were still in school, Darim and Kongju were in the same class. Not only that, Kongju was the only person in the whole school who showed her any kindness and helped her out regularly. When Kongju announced he was about to leave to serve in the military, Darim couldn't contain herself and asked him to come to a hotel with her. Out of the blue, right there on the street, she calmly invited this guy to a hotel to try something new. When they got to the hotel, Kongju sheepishly said, "I have some money, but not enough to pay for a room." So, Darim had no choice but to use her own card to pay. Kongju just fidgeted with his lighter to relieve the tension and avoid the judgmental stares of the receptionist. After one passionate night, Kongju eagerly gave Darim his phone number. Hearing him promise to contact her after he joined the military, Darim sweetly leaned on his shoulder. She just wanted to savor that rare, precious moment. But 8 long years passed, and Darim never received a call from Kongju. And now, here we are, fate has somehow arranged for them to meet again. When Darim got home, she decided to keep the news about the possibility of treating her failing eyesight a secret. She's such a thoughtful kid that she didn't want to worry her family. If her mom found out, she'd sell everything in the house, all their possessions to get money for the treatment. But her mom's life has been hard enough, so Darim didn't want to put any more pressure on her. As a daughter, she didn't want to be a burden. Meanwhile, her grandparents were thinking the same thing. Her grandpa's lung cancer had barely been treated, and now the doctor was saying her grandma might have stomach cancer. After a lot of thought, the grandma decided to keep it a secret from the family so her daughter-in-law wouldn't worry. They were old anyway, just grateful to live another day. As if that wasn't enough, Darim's aunt brought her son back to her parents' house. At that age, she couldn't even help her parents, and she even brought her children to them. During dinner, the little cousin, being totally unfiltered, told everyone that his parents were getting a divorce, but neither of them wanted to take responsibility for raising him. Hearing that, a wave of sadness washed over everyone at the table. After everyone finished eating, Darim's older brother, Murim, took on the job of clearing the table. As he was cleaning up, he grumbled, "Darim's a grown woman, but she's still dropping food everywhere." Knowing that her eyesight was the reason she dropped food, she didn't dare say a word back. She was so worried about being a burden to the family that she always tried to make herself as invisible as possible. She always tried to do everything herself because she didn't want to bother anyone. While the siblings were talking, Darim told her brother to be a little kinder to their mom. Every time he came home, even for a short visit, she was so happy. But no sooner had she said that, Murim announced that he was moving out soon. That same day, their mom accidentally overheard a special phone call to Darim, and that's how she found out that her daughter was scrambling to borrow 800 million won. In that moment, fragmented memories flooded her mind. She remembered the times recently when Darim had been hesitant, like she wanted to say something but held back. Putting all the pieces together, she suddenly understood what her daughter was going through. Feeling so much sympathy for her young but thoughtful daughter, the mom burst into tears like a child. Compared to Darim's family's poverty, Kongju was a total silver spoon kid. Years ago, his mom brought him to her new husband's house after she remarried. Because his stepfather didn't have any children, he treated Kongju like his heir, but to train him, he had him start as a director and work his way up to becoming the successor based on his abilities. Over on their side, Kongju's mom got a call from a real estate agent saying that the owner of the building she wanted to buy needed to sell it urgently. However, the seller required her to pay a 20% deposit up front. Kongju's mom rushed home, opened her safe, and grabbed some money from the 10 billion won that her father had left her to pay the deposit. Before he passed away, her father had left her a letter instructing her that, to avoid inheritance taxes, he'd found a way to leave her this cash. She had to wait 15 years before spending it, because then the statute of limitations would expire. He also told her not to tell anyone about this, not even her current husband. With less than a year to go before the deadline, Kongju's mom risked everything and carried 2 suitcases full of cash to buy the building. Right at that moment, Darim's mom arrived to deliver the laundered clothes to her employers, Kongju's family. Kongju's mom couldn't get a taxi, So she put the suitcases in Darim's mom's van and asked her for a ride. Darim's mom really didn't have a choice and agreed to drive Kongju's mom to her appointment. On the way, another car cut them off, and they both swore at the same time, realizing they had a lot in common. In the middle of the drive, Darim's mom got a call from the doctor about her daughter's condition. While waiting, Kongju's mom told her lawyer that she was going to use her savings to buy a building, but the lawyer disagreed. He pointed out that it was only 4 months until the 15 years were up, and she wouldn't have to pay a single penny in taxes to get all 10 billion won. He urged her to be patient. Kongju's mom was afraid something would go wrong, so she eventually gave up on buying the building and locked the money back at her safe. Over on the other side, Darim's future sister-in-law wanted to take her out to lunch. Hearing that, Darim shamelessly asked her future sister-in-law to give her cash instead of lunch. After getting the money, Darim spent it all on lottery tickets, hoping that fate would smile on her, that she'd win the lottery and be able to afford the ridiculously expensive treatment and see the light again. While Darim was scratching off the lottery tickets, Kongju came in to eat some noodles and sat right next to her, and realized who she was. Seeing Darim looking sad because she hadn't won anything, Kongju quickly ran away. But then he got curious about whether Darim had deleted his phone number, so he pulled out his phone to call her. To his surprise, Darim's phone immediately started ringing, which totally freaked Kongju out. To avoid getting involved with Darim, Kongju decided to run away. But then the convenience store clerk yelled out his name, reminding him that he hadn't taken his card. Darim heard the familiar name and realized that the guy next to her was the jerk from 8 years ago. Without thinking, she used her cane to block him, preventing him from running. After Darim left the convenience store, Kongju trailed after her. He wanted to talk to Darim, but he'd forgotten her name. Right then, they got to an intersection and saw the light change from green to red, and Kongju instinctively grabbed Darim's hand and pulled her across the street to the sidewalk. Darim shook Kongju's hand off, as if to say they were no longer connected. Kongju felt a little guilty about what happened years ago, but he pretended that Darim had never called him either. Seeing that Darim was still silent, Kongju took it a step further and said some hurtful things. "I never liked you back then. I just felt sorry for you." Darim was furious that this jerk would think that way, and she used her cane to hit Kongju, but she hadn't even managed to hit him a few times before the cane broke in half. Seeing Darim frantically searching the ground for the broken pieces of the cane, Kongju felt a little bad for her. Since it was his fault, Kongju obviously had to take responsibility for getting Darim home. Eventually, Kongju dropped Darim off at her family's laundromat. Tae-woong, who worked part-time at the laundromat, saw what was happening and thought Kongju was bullying Darim. Without thinking, he threatened to use the iron to flatten the wrinkles on Kongju's face. Seeing that, Darim lied to Tae-woong and said that Kongju was her boyfriend, then warned Kongju not to think she was an easy target. Hearing that, Kongju awkwardly left. But that afternoon, he came back to the laundromat to give Darim 10 new canes as an apology. Darim wasn't angry with Kongju anymore and sincerely said, "It's nice to see you." Not only that, she reassured him that she never thought about clinging to him or being romantically involved with him. Darim's words made Kongju feel a little ashamed of what he'd done. Compared to Darim's sincerity, his actions back then were pretty low. Darim's mom came home and heard the doctor say there was a new medicine that could cure her daughter's eyes. But when she heard the cost of treatment was 800 million won, she was devastated. She was usually so strong, but she couldn't help but cry, hating that her family's poverty was hurting her daughter. Darim's older sister, Charim, like her brother, always resented being born into this hopeless family. She was a designer at Kongju's company, wanting to use her own hard work to escape this crummy family. Today, a set of clothes she designed accidentally got stained with color, so she called Tae-woong to help her out. To thank him for going out of his way to bring the stuff to help her, she kissed Tae-woong. But Tae-woong got angry because he thought she was playing him, already having a boyfriend, but flirting with him. Charim explained that everything in her house disgusted her, and only Tae-woong made her heart flutter. Too bad. Tae-woong was just a poor orphan, and she didn't want to live with someone poor. Over on the other side, the cane Kongju bought wasn't the right size, so Darim and her neighbor went to buy a new cane. But Tae-woong had already bought one for her, so she didn't have to worry about it anymore. The neighbor threw fuel on the fire by telling Tae-woong a big secret. Darim once revealed that if she could see, the first person she'd want to see was Tae-woong. Then, Darim shyly admitted that it was true. She did think that way. Tae-woong saw what Darim was feeling, but he didn't continue the topic. Meanwhile, Durim's mom was still trying to figure out how to get the money to cure her daughter's eyes. She wanted to sell their current apartment and rent a smaller one, because that would save her 200 million won, leaving her still short 600 million won. Right then, Murim's future mother-in-law came to the laundromat to have a heart-to-heart with Durim's mom. Murim wanted to borrow money to prepare a wedding home, but the mother-in-law didn't want the newlyweds to start out their marriage with debt. Knowing that Murim was too proud to accept help directly from her, she gave the money to Durim's mom, asking her to pass it on to her son. After the future mother-in-law left, Durim's mom opened the envelope and saw 100 million won inside. Overcome with emotion, she immediately called Murim, wanting to discuss using the money to treat Durim's eyes. But Murim was busy, so they agreed to meet later to talk. Then, Durim's mom went to the company to find Charim, wanting to talk things over with her. She demanded that her second daughter give up the apartment she was renting alone and come back home to save money for Durim's treatment. Charim didn't agree, but her mom refused to let her argue, thinking that the richest person in the family was her brother-in-law, Durim's aunt's husband. Durim's mom shamelessly went to his company to ask for a loan. Before going in, she called Durim's aunt, asking if things were going well between her and her husband. Durim's aunt had clearly received divorce papers, but out of pride, she lied and said they'd made up. Durim's mom believed her and walked into the company, worriedly explaining the purpose of her visit. Before she could even finish, a woman pushed open the door and called her brother-in-law honey. Durim's mom was a little embarrassed, and she told the woman to leave. Then, her brother-in-law gave Durim's mom a loan of 30 million won, as if he were just giving charity to them. Durim's mom was incredibly grateful, believing that every little bit helps and that they could definitely gather enough for the 800 million won. When she got home, Durim's mom hadn't even had a chance to breathe when she received a call from a guide. That's when she found out that her parents-in-law had gone hiking and gotten lost. They didn't know where they were. After receiving the news, the whole family panicked and immediately went into the mountains to find them. At that time, the two grandparents were lost and accidentally saw a fat man who looked like a gangster burying something under a tree. After he left, they cautiously approached to see what he had buried, seeing stacks of cash appear before their eyes. And this cash was what Kongju's mom had hidden for a long time. The thief was eyeing the property, but they had no idea. Then, when nobody was home, the two thieves opened the safe and found the 10 billion won that was hidden inside the safe. And Kongju's mom didn't realize that one of the two thieves was her husband's driver. At that moment, Kongju's mom fought with the two thieves, but she was no match for them. They knocked her out and tied her up. When she woke up, the thieves were long gone, leaving her helpless. She smashed a vase on the table and used a shard of glass to cut the ropes, then ran to the door, screaming for help. The housekeeper, who came to cook for her, wanted to call the police, but Kongju's mom stopped her. If she called the police, the 10 billion won inheritance would be exposed, and she'd have to pay taxes. All her father's efforts would have been for nothing. Just then, Kongju and his stepfather returned home. Knowing she couldn't hide it anymore, his mom had to confess that the 10 billion won her father had left her had been stolen that morning while no one was home. Kongju and his stepfather looked at the secret compartment in the wardrobe, realizing for the first time that there was a safe in the house. Then, Kongju blamed his mom for being foolish, saying that paying taxes honestly is the only way to spend the rest of the money in peace. If the police come knocking, not only will you have to pay back taxes, but even your stepfather's company will be implicated. What they feared came to pass. A passerby who had seen Kongju's mom running out in a panic called the police. Soon after, the police quickly arrived at the house to investigate what had happened. The three put their heads together and finally decided to lie, saying that jewelry and cash from Kongju's mom's purse had been stolen. What's more, the person who came to investigate was Charim's brother, Murim, and his fiancée. Based on the evidence at the scene, Murim suspected that someone they knew had committed the crime. He found a lighter under the coffee table and checked the fingerprints on it, quickly finding a lead and arresting the fat driver. Seeing his partner arrested, the other thief got scared and wanted to run away that night. He planned to flee the country, but the police were doing thorough checks, and the ship owner didn't dare to take the risk. With no other choice, he decided to hide the 2 bags of cash first. That's why the grandparents saw the fat guy burying the money. The grandparents' blood pressure skyrocketed. They got so excited that they started talking nonsense, but the grandfather quickly calmed down. That person had a tattoo on his neck and looked very scary. We can't put ourselves in danger for this money. So they put the money back where it was, constantly telling themselves, this is someone else's money. We can't be greedy. At this moment, Durim's mom arrived, so the two grandparents finally returned home safely. That night, Durim leaned on her grandmother, happy that her grandparents had returned safely and excited that her mom was going to treat her eyes. Right at that moment, she suddenly heard a huge argument breaking out outside. Turns out, her mom had told Murim that his future mother-in-law had given them 100 million won for their wedding home, but she wanted to use the money to treat Durim's eyes. This made Murim blow a fuse. Ever since their dad had passed away, he had been shouldering the responsibility of supporting the family alongside his mom, even giving up his chance to go to college. He was trying to escape the self-esteem issues caused by his family, and refusing the help from his future mother-in-law was his way of standing tall with his girlfriend. But his mom's actions were insulting the pride he was trying so hard to maintain. Then, Murim demanded that his mom return the money immediately, but she refused. During the struggle, the check got torn, but his mom was relieved that she could still tape it back together. After arguing back and forth, Murim got so angry that he spoke without thinking. He said, "Durim has lived well enough without her sight until now. If there's no other way, then she can just keep living like that." Charim heard the argument and came to see what was going on. Learning about her mom's actions, she also got angry and criticized her mom. "From the time I was little, you only had Durim in your eyes. You repeatedly missed events at my school, making me go through my whole youth feeling lost and upset. It was hard enough for me to escape this awful house, so there's no way I'm giving up my apartment to move back home. Plus, there have only been 7 of those surgeries in the entire country. The people who get them are rich, and we're poor, so we should just give up." Durim sat in front of her grandmother's room, clearly hearing the argument between her brother, sister, and mom. Because of that, she felt incredibly sad that she had become a burden on the whole family. Durim went out alone to drink away all her worries and sadness. When the owner of the bar told her to pay her bill, she realized there was no money in her wallet. Without thinking, she immediately called Taewon, but nobody answered. At that moment, Taewon was at a karaoke bar, singing with Charim to relieve some stress. Taewon sympathized with Durim's mom, who had been struggling alone to take care of the family, and he thought that Charim should help and share the burden. But when he heard that Charim had been hit by her mom's words, he felt really bad. Unable to reach Taewon, Durim called Kongju, whose number was in her recent call history. Kongju quickly arrived, but because he wasn't in a good mood either, he also ordered a bottle of alcohol. It turned out that after his mom's 10 billion won had been stolen, his stepfather felt hurt because his mom didn't trust him. And it was this incident that caused their relationship to crack. That night, Kongju, thinking he was doing a good deed, took Durim home. On the way, he happened to run into Taewon and Charim coming out of the karaoke bar. Durim had previously said that Taewon was her boyfriend, leading Kongju to mistakenly believe that he was two-timing her. Instinctively, he stepped in front of Durim, blocking her view. Durim, completely drunk, was rambling nonsense, sometimes saying she was just a burden, sometimes hugging Kongju, crying and laughing at the same time. Kongju was at a loss, kindly reminding her to find a boyfriend who truly loves you. The next day, Durim's aunt angrily stormed home to confront Durim's mom. She was in the process of getting a divorce from her husband, but to demand a larger settlement, she was intentionally dragging things out, refusing to sign. However, her husband played a trick, turning the 30 million won he'd loaned Durim's mom into part of her settlement. Furious, the aunt berated Durim's mom, saying that no matter how desperate she was, she shouldn't mess up other people's lives. Then, she ordered Durim's mom to immediately transfer the money back to her without thinking. Seeing that Durim's mom refused, the aunt grabbed her phone, typed in the amount, and forced her to enter her bank password. With no other choice, Durim's mom had to return the money to her aunt. The little pieces of life had left Durim's mom completely exhausted, but she still tried to rally herself to go out and make deliveries. When she arrived in front of Kongju's house, she accidentally saw his stepfather coming out. Instinctively, she stopped, her eyes glued to the person in front of her, completely forgetting that she had a delivery to make. It wasn't until her stepfather reminded her that she snapped back to reality and moved her car away. Durim's mom suddenly woke up after her stepfather had driven off. She immediately looked in the mirror, examining her face. Maybe it's because I look like this now that the other person couldn't recognize me. It's probably normal. Over on the other side, Durim didn't want her family to fall apart just because of her eyes. She rummaged through her mom's purse and found the 100 million won check from her brother's future mother-in-law. Unexpectedly, her mom caught her in the act and scolded her. She didn't want to give up any hope, so she refused to return the money. Darim angrily yelled that her mom wasn't just her mom. She was also the mom of her brother and sister. They were right. Our family can't gather 800 million won, and even if we could, we wouldn't be able to pay it all back with this small laundromat. I don't want a whole family to live just to pay off debt. Even so, her mom still wanted to try. Darim burst into tears, feeling suffocated by having to live under the constant scrutiny of everyone in her family. After thinking carefully for many nights, she didn't want to continue the tug-of-war anymore. Darim returned the check to Murim, lying that she had gotten used to living in the dark and that it was okay for her to continue like that. Hearing that, Murim just said, "I hope you don't blame yourself because I've done everything I could." Then, Darim went to see Charim, reassuring her that she had clearly told their mom that she didn't want the surgery. She also reminded Charim not to sacrifice her favorite apartment just to save money. But Charim had made up her mind to move back home to try and heal their family relationships. Hearing that, Darim invited her sister to lunch, but Charim refused because her lunch break was almost over and she needed to get back to work. Darim asked if Charim felt ashamed to have a blind sister. Hearing that, Charim finally snapped, letting all the pent-up frustration explode. "I shared a room with you for 30 years, and I was finally able to move out on my own. Can you just leave me alone? Being around you makes me feel like a criminal all the time." Darim was heartbroken that her efforts to improve her relationship with her siblings had failed. She sat silently outside the company building. Kongju passed by and asked if she needed a taxi, but Darim had already ordered a car. When the car arrived, she stood up and said goodbye. Kongju watched her confidently open the car door, remembering the last time he'd driven her home. That day in the car, he suddenly asked her something he'd always wondered about. "Why did you invite me to a hotel that day when we were on the street?" Darim replied that when she was in school, she really liked the script he'd written, especially the male lead in it. It was because she liked that character that she had rediscovered her passion for writing in another place. The grandparents were attending a friend's funeral, and they happened to see a portrait of the fat man who'd buried the money in the mountains hanging in the main hall, confirming that it was his funeral. The two grandparents quickly grabbed Murim, who was just coming out of the funeral home. They wanted to ask about the identity of the deceased, wanting to know if he had a family. Murim said that the deceased was a professional loan shark. Initial investigations showed no signs of foul play, and he didn't have any other relatives. The grandparents couldn't calm down when they thought about the 2 bags of ownerless money, and they were the only ones who knew where it was buried. If the family had that much money, Darim's mom wouldn't have to struggle so much. After tossing and turning all night, the 2 grandparents decided to go up the mountain to get the money. The old grandparents struggled to climb the mountain, relying on their memories to find the place where the money had been buried. To lessen their guilt, they planned to take only a portion of it, but after thinking about it, they realized that everything in their house needed money. Before, the 2 had subtly asked Murim, their policeman grandson, and learned that if the thief took the money to help their family, only the thief would be punished and the family wouldn't be implicated. Thinking that they were old and didn't have many years left to live anyway, they figured that even if they got caught, it would be worth it to leave a fortune for their family. So, the 2 grandparents decided to take an entire bag of money. After getting the money, not wanting their daughter-in-law to find out and be dragged into being an accomplice, the grandparents decided to hide the money in an old air conditioner that had been covered in dust and hadn't been used in years. The grandfather took apart the air conditioner, while the grandmother carefully stuffed each stack of cash inside. In total, there were 3 billion won, roughly $2.25 million US, all neatly packed inside the air conditioner. They finally sighed in relief, planning to take out a little bit at a time to use for the family. At the same time, Kongju's mom was annoyed because she had just lost a lot of money a few days before. She had gotten angry and fired the housekeeper, but now she couldn't cook for herself, so she had to ask Kongju to call the housekeeper back. That housekeeper had a restaurant right next to Darim's family's laundromat. Kongju asked the housekeeper if Darim and Taewon were dating, but she immediately denied it, saying that it was impossible. Everyone knows that Taewon and Charim have something shady going on. There's absolutely no way he and Darim are together. Then, Kongju called Darim to meet him so they could have a little chat. She had praised the script he'd written, which made him very happy, because in other people's eyes, he didn't seem to have anything special about him. Darim was the only one who acknowledged him. Also, since they'd met again, he felt that Darim was really strong and optimistic, which made him want to understand more about her. He told her to write a few lines on paper, explaining that he also needed someone to encourage him. Darim angrily thought that his life was so much happier than hers, a blind person. After saying that, Darim felt that she shouldn't have taken her anger out on Kongju. She jokingly said that when she could see, she didn't get to watch enough movies, and now she couldn't watch them even if she wanted to. Hearing that, Kongju decided to help her fulfill that wish. He especially took her to see a movie. Taewon was afraid that Kongju would do something to Darim, so he followed them. In the movie theater, Kongju patiently described the movie to Darim vividly, but every time Darim got scared, she leaned closer to Taewon, which made Kongju jealous. He tugged on her sleeve to make her sit back next to him. After the movie ended, the three of them went to eat. Taewon reminded Darim not to go out alone with Kongju in the future, saying that rich guys like him often had ulterior motives. Kongju was frustrated by Taewon's prejudice and retorted, asking who he was to judge him. Taewon replied that he was an orphan who grew up in an orphanage, completely clean, and he only considered Darim like a sister. Later, when Darim had a boyfriend, that guy would definitely have to pass his test. Hearing those words, Darim felt a little annoyed and stopped the childish argument between the two. Over on her side, Darim's mom hadn't given up hope of curing her daughter's eyes. She was watching TV and saw the news that Kongju's company had donated 13 million won to a school, and her heart fluttered. Turns out, Sungdan was her sweet first love from her youth. Back then, Sungdan's family had run into trouble, and he wanted to drop out of school to work. Darim's mom sold the stock her father had bought for her and gave him the scholarship money. At that time, Sungdan was incredibly grateful, promising to pay her back in the future. Many years had passed, and Darim's mom doubted that Sungdan would even recognize her. But because she wanted to cure Darim's eyes, she mustered all her courage to go and see him. Unexpectedly, Sungdan not only recognized her, but also acted very coldly. When she explained the reason for her visit, he scornfully said that when she got married that year, he had returned the money, plus the profits from the stock, along with a wedding gift. Darim's mom wanted to argue, but Sungdan sarcastically told her that she had a flush complexion. If you have a skin condition, you should go to a dermatologist, and if you have mental problems, you should go to a mental hospital. Being humiliated by her first love, Darim's mom's heart was filled with pain. When she returned to the laundromat, Darim's mom was dead drunk, blaming herself for her bad luck and blaming her husband for following the Grim Reaper too soon, leaving her with such a mess. The grandparents tried to comfort her, but in her anger, Darim's mom got more and more worked up. Plus, she had drunk too much alcohol, making her whole body feel like it was on fire. She turned on the air conditioner, which she didn't normally dare to use because she didn't want to waste electricity. The two grandparents immediately rushed to stop her, but Darim's mom had lost her mind. Seeing that the air conditioner wasn't responding, she used force to shake it. However, at that moment, she saw a mind-blowing scene. The inside of the air conditioner was full of money. Darim's mom couldn't believe her eyes. When she took apart the air conditioner and saw the stacks of cash inside, she could no longer remain calm. The two grandparents, seeing that the secret was out, had to tell her the whole story of how they had gotten the money, and why they had kept it from her. They didn't want her to become a thief. After the truth was revealed, seeing the massive amount of money in front of her, Darim's mom was both shocked and overjoyed. Even though her conscience told her she shouldn't take someone else's money, she couldn't think straight because she wanted to cure Darim's eyes. She explained to the grandparents that she needed 800 million won for Darim's surgery, and later, she and her daughter would work hard to make money to pay back the money and then rebury it. The grandparents then learned that there was a way to treat Darim's eyes, and all feelings of guilt immediately vanished. As long as they could cure Darim's eyes, they could go to hell and it would be worth it. Darim's mom returned from what felt like another world, grabbed the grandparents' hands, and cried tears of joy. The next day, Darim's mom took her daughter to the hospital for a checkup. All the results were good, and the surgery was scheduled for 3 days later. When Darim asked her mom about the source of the money, her mom lied and said that she had borrowed it from friends, specifically Sungdan. After Darim's eyes recovered, the two of them would work together to pay off the debt. They were both very excited, eagerly awaiting the day of the surgery. However, no one expected that a sudden accident was about to happen. Kongju couldn't find his lighter. It was an heirloom his grandfather had left him, and it was very important to him. After searching everywhere in the house and not finding it, he went to Darim's laundromat because his mom sent her dirty clothes there every day. With the help of the grandparents, he quickly found the lighter. However, when he tried to light it, it didn't work. After trying a few more times, a flame suddenly burst out, and he got scared and threw the lighter on the ground. Unexpectedly, the cleaning fluid on the ground that the grandmother had spilled had spread everywhere. The flame came into contact with the cleaning fluid and immediately burst into flames more violently than ever before. The two grandparents panicked and ran to save the money in the air conditioner, but the fire was too big and they couldn't get in. Not knowing what was happening, Kangju quickly pulled the grandparents outside, but he fainted on the ground from inhaling too much smoke. When Darim's mom returned, the laundromat had been burned to the ground, and the 3 billion won in the air conditioner had turned to ashes. Kangju woke up and apologized to Darim's family, promising to compensate for all the damage to the laundromat. At this point, Darim's mom didn't know what to say. She could only glare at him with hatred. Kangju's mom and Sungdan also came to the hospital to check on their son. Seeing that their son wasn't seriously injured, Sungdan coldly told Kangju to compensate for the damage himself. It turned out that before coming to the hospital, Sungdan had suddenly received an email from his ex-girlfriend. She announced that many years ago, she had secretly given birth to their son and sent him to the Sunshine Orphanage. Now, she had been diagnosed with cancer and was about to pass away, and she felt it was necessary to tell him. Upon learning that he had a biological son, Sungdan couldn't process it. After the grandparents were discharged from the hospital, Darim's mom demanded that they reveal the location where they had buried the money, because she had to get her daughter's surgery. Soon after, the three of them went up the mountain, and they quickly dug up the remaining bag of money. Darim was taken into the operating room without a hitch, and her mom anxiously waited outside the operating room. She hoped that the surgery would be successful and that Darim would see the light again. Darim's surgery was very successful, but she needed a few days to recover before the bandages could be removed. Taewon told the grandparents to go home and rest, and he would stay and take care of Darim. That same day, the three returned home and hid the remaining money under the mattress. Since Darim had been cured, the grandparents thought that, to be fair, they should also support the other two kids. Murim was always sad about buying a new house. They should buy the kid a house, but how to spend the money without raising suspicion was a problem. The grandmother suggested altering the laundromat's books and then publicly announcing that the business was booming and had made a lot of money. The grandfather immediately imagined the whole family going to jail for falsifying the books. Finally, he decided to do something during Murim's wedding. The three took out 100 million won from under the mattress, put the cash in wedding gift envelopes, and pretended that this money was wedding gifts they'd received. The grandmother thoughtfully wrote the names of people they didn't know on the envelopes to create the impression that there were many guests and many wedding gifts. The three enthusiastically invited acquaintances they barely interacted with to attend the wedding. Moreover, they announced in advance that just coming was enough. They didn't need to bring wedding gifts. On the other side, Kangju came to the hospital to visit Darim while she was resting. He felt worried that Darim would blame him for burning down the laundromat, so he didn't dare to speak, but he tightly held her hand. Darim thought it was Taewon, so she happily squeezed his hand back. Then, she bragged that getting the injections in her eyes hurt a lot, but she tried her best to endure it so that Taewon would praise her. Kangju tenderly stroked her head and couldn't help but kiss her. Running down to the hospital lobby, Kangju shouted that Darim was the bravest person and he was happy for her. Darim still thought that it was Taewon who was shouting to encourage her, so she lay on the bed and shyly smiled. On the day the bandages were removed, the whole family waited with bated breath, hoping to witness a miracle. Darim, who hadn't seen them in so long, curiously looked at everyone, tears streaming down her face. Everyone else was also crying and laughing, treasuring this precious moment. A little later, Charim went out to the balcony alone to have a heart-to-heart with Taewon, saying, "Darim can finally see." The whole family breathed a sigh of relief, and she herself was very happy because she no longer had to worry about Darim. In that moment, she couldn't help but want to kiss Taewon, but she stopped herself just in time. Her principle was to only be with rich people, and Taewon didn't fit her criteria, so she couldn't cross that line. Not only that, Charim had also realized that Darim really liked Taewon, so while they were talking, she asked Taewon about his feelings. But Taewon said that he only considered Darim like a little sister. Darim's feelings might just be an illusion, because besides her family, he was the only other guy around her. Hearing him say that, Charim didn't have anything to say for the moment. A few days later, Darim went happily strolling down the street towards her house. Since she could see, she felt curious about everything, constantly looking around. Kangju saw Darim on the other side of the street and deliberately stood in the middle of the road, blocking her way. Who is that? Why do I always run into crazy people? Darim wondered. Darim went upstairs to find Taewon and saw that he had just finished working out. His upper body was bare, and he was resting with his eyes closed. In that moment, she couldn't help but kiss Taewon on the forehead. Taewon startled and sat up, reminding her not to do that to men. Darim, still thinking that it was Taewon who had kissed her, jokingly said that he dared to do it, but didn't dare to admit it. Darim's family saw the lipstick mark on Taewon's forehead and immediately questioned the part-time worker, asking if he had a girlfriend. If he had a girlfriend, he should bring her home, and they would definitely organize a wedding for him. Taewon had been taken care of by Darim's family for many years and was already grateful enough. He didn't want to cause any more trouble. Darim heard the three adults urging them to get married and was overjoyed, believing that she was Taewon's bride. After much deliberation, Kangju compensated the laundromat for the 3 billion won in damages. Through the efforts of Darim's family, the laundromat was finally renovated and reopened. Kangju came to congratulate them, but in everyone's eyes, he was just a troublemaker, especially after they found out that the grandparents and Darim's mom had lost 300 million won. The grandfather angrily chased him away, and Darim finally saw Kangju's true colors. She pulled Kangju aside and told him not to come near the laundromat again. Because of the side effects from the surgery, Darim couldn't help but blink. Kangju thought that Darim was flirting with him, which made him ecstatic because he had liked her for a long time. Then, he persuaded Darim to admit that she was his first love. Before leaving, he even intimately patted her like loving couples do. To start over, Darim began submitting job applications, but because she didn't have any work experience, no company would hire her. Finally, Darim found a job delivering water at a building. Over on his side, while working, Kangju happened to see Darim at his company. He asked the staff to check the security camera footage and saw Darim struggling to pull a water container up the stairs, which made him feel very bad. The staff explained that at that time, delivery staff were not allowed to use the elevator. Kangju still didn't know that Sungdan had found out that his biological son was Taewon. Knowing that Taewon and Darim's family lived together, he especially came to the laundromat. Last time, Darim's mom had asked him for help in line to her daughter. If she asked, he should say that the 800 million won was borrowed from him. He wrote a fake loan note, as requested by Darim's mom, and sent it over. Just then, Taewon returned after delivering laundry, causing Sungdan to fixate on his son. Seizing an opportunity, he grabbed a straw that Taewon had used to do a DNA test. The DNA test results were quickly released, confirming that Taewon was indeed his biological son. Sungdan took the DNA test results and found Taewon, saying, "Even though you're my son, nothing will change." Sungdan's sudden appearance disrupted Taewon's mind. He never imagined that his biological father could be so heartless, completely unwilling to acknowledge him. Actually, Sungdan's coldness stemmed from his own inner torment. Years ago, when he was a poor student, a striking female student caught the attention of all the male students. That girl took the initiative to approach him. The poor guy, captivated by the goddess's aura, quickly fell in love. However, he later found out that his girlfriend wasn't a university student, but a bar hostess. Feeling deceived, he resolutely broke up with her, disregarding her pleas. From then on, he found it very difficult to trust anyone. Initially, he agreed to meet with Kangju's mom because Kangju's maternal grandfather could help his career. After getting married, he had no intention of having children. Fortunately, Kangju's mom already had a son, so the two got married without issue. He just never expected that after many years, a biological son would suddenly appear. Taewon, triggered by Sungdan's cold attitude, went to the company to find him. Just then, he, Charim, and Kangju were together in an elevator. Kangju saw them standing next to each other without talking and felt confused. There were colleagues around, but Charim always portrayed herself as single in front of her colleagues. Afraid that her ambiguous relationship with Taewon would be exposed, she lied and said that she didn't know this man. Taewon was already sad, and hearing that made him even more heartbroken. But to play along with Charim, he also lied and said that he didn't know her. A little later, Kangju followed Taewon to his stepfather's office. Taewon threw the deed to his house in front of Sungdan. He had a house, he could support himself, and he didn't need a father like Sungdan. Since Sungdan didn't want to acknowledge him, He would also act as if Sungdon didn't exist. At this point, Kangju realized that his stepfather had a biological son, and that person was Taewon. Seeing Taewon angrily leave, Sungdon told Kangju that Taewon was indeed his son, but he didn't plan to let his son acknowledge him. Kangju didn't care about this. He just hoped that he wouldn't tell his mom, so Darim wouldn't have to struggle anymore. Kangju told the security guard that whenever that girl came to deliver water, the guard had to let her use the elevator. Not thinking it was enough, he also wanted Darim to come work at the company as his stepfather's secretary. The head secretary, knowing that Darim had no work experience and no driver's license, finally calmly asked, "Is that girl pretty?" Kangju honestly said that Darim was very beautiful. Unexpectedly, the head secretary flatly refused because Sungdon had ordered that absolutely no pretty girls be hired. Hearing this, Kangju couldn't believe that such a preposterous thing existed. At the same time, he didn't expect that Darim would rely on her own abilities to come work at the company. It turned out that Darim had been tricked by her mom, believing that Sungdon was a kind person who had loaned their family 800 million won. To thank Sungdon for his help, she brought him a glass of juice every day. Initially, Sungdon was cold and uncomfortable, but Darim always smiled, and over time, Sungdon was finally moved by her smile. Every day, he eagerly went to the office to see what juice Darim had prepared for him. Sungdon appreciated Darim's resilient and optimistic spirit and proactively offered her a job at the company. He ordered the head secretary to teach Darim the basic tasks of a secretary. Furthermore, he argued that he wasn't violating the rules he had set because Darim wasn't beautiful. Later, Darim told her sister, Charim, the news that she was going to work at the company. She was afraid that working at the same company would cause trouble for her sister. Unexpectedly, her sister was very happy. She even told her to be grateful to Sungdon for allowing her to work and to be loyal to the chairman. When they parted, her sister apologized to Darim for not being able to help when her sister needed money for surgery. Her sister's words suddenly reminded Darim of the old days. Back then, her sister always took her to school. On snowy days, her sister would piggyback her to school and help deal with classmates who made fun of her. When she got home, her brother would shine her dirty shoes. Even though she couldn't see anything, he tried his best to make her clean. Her sister, Charim, had altered her uniform dress so she could wear a dress to school like everyone else. These warm memories were always etched in Darim's heart. She had never forgotten the care her siblings had given her. The head secretary told Kangju that Sungdon had personally found the secretary, the girl who delivered water. He lamented that the two men had completely different perceptions of Darim's beauty. Kangju was deeply hurt by this statement, but couldn't do anything about it. That day, when Taewon came to find his father, Sungdon blamed his hot-tempered personality on him, saying he was just like him when he was young. Biological father and son were similar in every way, while Kangju, the son with no blood relation, was completely the opposite of Sungdon. Kangju couldn't help but feel sad and went off to drink alone. In another development, Darim told Taewon the good news that she was going to work soon. However, Taewon didn't want his family to have contact with the cold and ruthless Sungdon, so he advised Darim to change jobs. It must be understood that Darim had worked so hard to get a real job. Moreover, in her heart, Sungdon was the kindest person in the world, so she couldn't give up this job just because of a few words from Taewon. Hearing Darim say that, Taewon was extremely annoyed but couldn't do anything about it. Just then, Kangju's car drove up and neither man yielded. Not only that, Kangju also used his alcohol courage to provoke Taewon. Seeing them, Taewon got so fed up that he got out of the car to fight Kangju. Seeing the two fighting, Darim tried to stop them, but both were angry and neither would stop. Finally, Kangju was knocked to the ground, and only then did the fight stop. Faced with that situation, Darim rushed to see if Kangju was hurt. Taewon was angry because Darim cared about Kangju, so he left the two of them and left. Kangju was very happy to be alone with Darim. Drunk, he poured out what was on his mind. That day at the hospital, he had kissed Darim on the forehead and shouted outside to cheer her on. Hearing him say that, Darim now realized that it was Kangju who had kissed her. Hiding the disappointment in her heart, she reminded Kangju that the two of them were about to be colleagues, and she wouldn't have a romance in the office. On the other hand, Kangju's mom asked her father's people to find the whereabouts of the stolen money. When the new one was issued, her father had specially collected 50,000 won bills with the symbol AA to save for her. That type of money no longer existed on the market. They just needed to follow that lead. Today, Kongju asked his mom for pocket money, and his mom casually gave him the money that the housekeeper had returned. Coincidentally, she discovered that the bills had the AA symbol. Moreover, it was the same series as the money she had lost. Then, the two immediately called the housekeeper, learning that she was attending a wedding. The two rushed there, asking around. Upon arriving, Kongju realized that the wedding was for Darim's brother, Murim. His mom found the housekeeper among the people attending the party, asking where that money had come from. She discovered that Darim's mom had given the money to the housekeeper to thank her for always taking care of their family. Just then, Darim's mom happened to come over, so the housekeeper looked toward her. Kongju's mom waited with bated breath for the housekeeper's answer, but the housekeeper was a little flustered because her son-in-law was standing next to her. It must be understood that her son-in-law's principle was not to accept kindness from others, to avoid getting into debt. To avoid being exposed, she lied, saying that the money came from customers who came to the restaurant to eat. There were too many customers, so she couldn't remember who it was. Kongju's mom was devastated, pressuring the housekeeper to remember. Kongju, worried that his mom's cries would affect others, quickly pushed his mom outside. At the wedding, according to the plan, the grandparents had brought the money in the envelopes to the wedding. Then, the two grandparents found an excuse to send Taewon and Darim, who were registering the wedding gifts, away. One person registered the names in the book, and the other put the envelopes in the wedding money bag. By the time Taewon and Darim returned, they had already completed their mission. Darim's mom counted the wedding gifts, receiving a total of 50 million won. Adding the 100 million won she secretly put in, there was enough money for Murim and his wife to buy a house. Murim got married smoothly. Darim's mom was relieved of a burden. So in the evening, she found Taewon drinking alcohol. She lamented that the wedding gift money she received wasn't much, and there were also many 100,000 won checks. She didn't know that those checks were all from Tu. Before the wedding, he had specially gone to the bank to exchange 100,000 won checks, totaling 30 million won. What the whole family didn't expect was that Murim, wanting to help his mom reduce her burden, had secretly returned 150 million won to Sungdan. Murim, concerned her money would be taken, and did this when the check was within his reach for payment. Sungdan, worried that if he refused again, he would be exposed, had to accept the money and then thought of a way to return it to Darim's mom. Kongju's mom then realized that her husband knew Darim's mom. That night, she couldn't sleep, so she got up to look at the money Murim had just returned. However, even though Kongju's mom searched everywhere, she still couldn't find the bag of money. Just then, Kongju returned, startling her and also accidentally letting her see the bag of money under the sofa. She picked up the bag of money, wanting to examine the contents, but Kongju snatched it away. Kongju asked her why she was sneaking around, and his mom revealed the source of money. She wanted to check if the money started with AA. At this point, Kongju learned that his mom had asked Mr. Kim, who used to work for his maternal grandfather, to help her find the lost money, and he immediately expressed his opposition. If his stepfather knew that his mom was associating with a loan shark, he definitely wouldn't let it go. To maintain harmony in the family, Kongju asked his mom not to meet Mr. Kim again and to instead give him the task of finding the money. His mom, seeing Kongju so determined, trusted her son and didn't think twice. After coaxing his mom to sleep, Kongju opened the bag of money and discovered that among the 150 million won, 100 million had the AA symbol. Kongju, seeing that only part of the money was missing, didn't rush to conclude that this was the money his mom had lost. Then he found Mr. Kim, asking him not to contact his mom anymore. Instead, any progress on finding the money should be reported directly to him. He would keep his mom's promise. Once the lost 10 billion was found, he would give Mr. Kim 2 billion. The next day, Sungdan went to Darim's laundromat to return the money to her mom. Darim's mom was angry about her son's action of returning the money and was no longer in the mood to eat black bean noodles. Sungdan was about to leave, but suddenly felt hungry and became interested in black bean noodles. The two ate noodles together. Sungdan sighed, feeling like he was back in his school days, often eating together. At that time, the two were deeply in love, just one step away from becoming a couple. Unexpectedly, Sungdan's ex-girlfriend appeared, taking the initiative to approach and capture his heart. Unfortunately, that ex-girlfriend had deceived Sungdan's feelings and even defrauded him of the wedding money he had intended to give to Darim's mom. Before leaving, Sungdan told Darim's mom that her daughter was doing very well at the company and that she didn't need to worry about her daughter not adapting. Over on the other side, Charim was also arguing with Kongju about work. She scolded Kongju, saying he was useless and would never be acknowledged by Sungdan. Kongju was deeply hurt, feeling sad, but unable to do anything about it. While they were talking, Darim comforted him, saying that her sister was just saying that and didn't mean any harm. She and Kongju both needed to work hard to be recognized by everyone. Kongju, after hearing Darim's sincere advice, smiled. He confessed his feelings, saying that he was currently having a one-sided love for Darim. Unexpectedly, Darim said that liking someone was his right, but she couldn't accept him right now. However, she wouldn't force him to like her. At the same time, Charim, provoked by Kongju, decided to go on a blind date, looking for someone as rich as him. Taewon chased her to the coffee shop where she was having the blind date, standing at the door and texting her that he didn't like her going on blind dates. Charim saw Taewon but didn't go out to meet him. Instead, she texted him back, saying that she still couldn't accept his poverty, so this was the end between them. Taewon was in extreme pain, but when he returned to his car, he suddenly received a strange phone call. The caller identified themselves as an end-of-life caregiver for his mom, saying that his mom wanted to see him before passing away. After much thought, Taewon decided to go see the mother he had never met. Meanwhile, while he was out, the housekeeper, Jia, was cleaning his room and accidentally saw the DNA test report for Taewon and Sungdan. She angrily stormed into Sungdan's company. Just then, Kongju's mom was also there. Not long ago, Kongju's mom had accidentally seen Sungdan's phone and thought he was having an affair. Suspicious, she secretly checked Sungdan's dashcam and happened to see Sungdan receiving the DNA test report and then calling his lawyer. That's how she found out that her husband had been hiding a son from her. Kongju's mom was extremely angry and stormed into the company, slapping Sungdan without a word. Darim was in the break room having lunch. The next second, she saw her mom storm in. Kongju's mom thought Taewon was Sungdan's son and Darim's mom. Unexpectedly, Darim's mom also raised her hand and slapped Sungdan hard. Darim's mom had long regarded Taewon as her own son. She angrily asked Sungdan if he and his ex-girlfriend had abandoned Taewon at the orphanage right after he was born. Sungdan had been slapped by two women in turn, but still hadn't understood what was going on. Kongju, to ease the situation, told the three to sit down and talk things out. Years ago, Darim's mom had found Taewon shivering in a box of old clothes in front of the laundromat. Knowing that Taewon had no parents and grew up in an orphanage, Darim's mom felt sorry for him and took him home to raise. Then, she gave him a part-time job at the laundromat. In the process of living together, she had regarded him as her own son. Darim's mom didn't expect that Taewon was the son Sungdan had abandoned. Sungdan said that he had only learned about Taewon's existence recently. Before that, he had no idea that he had a son. Kongju's mom listened to the conversation and understood the whole story. Sungdan had not only been deceived by his ex-girlfriend, but had also had a son out of nowhere. She hated being kept in the dark, declaring Kongju to be Sungdan's only son. Darim's mom, unwilling to see Taewon being treated unfairly, fought for his rights. Kongju explained to Darim's mom that she shouldn't be fooled by Taewon. Taewon was good at investing in stocks and business. He was a wealthy man who held hundreds of billions of won. Hearing this, Darim's mom was stunned. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that something was off. She went to the real estate company to ask if the landlord of the laundromat wanted to sell the lease. Seeing this, the real estate agent quickly contacted Taewon to ask for his opinion. At this time, Taewon was on a plane, so his phone had to be turned off. The real estate agent had no choice but to take out the lease for the laundromat. Darim's mom was shocked to discover that not only her laundromat, but the entire building was owned by Taewon. At that moment, the housekeeper neighbor also saw the lease. They couldn't believe that the poor guy working at the laundromat was actually a hidden tycoon. The news spread like wildfire. Before long, the whole neighborhood knew that Taewon was a wealthy heir. The gold-digging Charim continued to research her blind date target. That night, when she returned home, everyone looked at her differently. Everyone around knew that she and Taewon had an ambiguous relationship and envied her for about to change her life. Charim blankly listened as her family recounted that Taewon was the owner of the entire building and the biological son of Sungdan. Hearing everyone say this, Charim suddenly froze, hating herself for being blind. The man she had scorned had such a shocking background. She called Taewon, but his phone was still off, so she couldn't reach him. She didn't know that Taewon had gone to meet his biological mom. She thought that he had angrily left because she wouldn't stop her from going on a blind date. Finally, Tae-woong met the mother he had never met. While the two were talking, his mom revealed the truth about her identity. Years ago, she was a bar hostess who had pretended to be a university student to date Sung-dan. She had truly loved Sung-dan, but he couldn't accept being deceived, so he angrily broke up with her. After breaking up, she had secretly given birth to Tae-woong. Because she couldn't afford to raise him, she sent Tae-woong to an orphanage. 3 years ago, she secretly went to see Sung-dan and Tae-woong, seeing if they were living well. Seeing that the two were lonely, she came up with the idea of having Tae-woong acknowledge his father. Tae-woong's mom's way of making this happen was by sending an anonymous email to Sung-dan's company website. She accused Kong-ju of studying film during his MPA studies and wasting company money. Kong-ju, unaware of what was happening, was summoned to his stepfather's office. Sung-dan threw the investigation documents on the ground, asking if he had studied film during his studies. Kong-ju explained that without affecting his MPA studies, he had earned 2 degrees. Moreover, the film tuition was something he had saved, not company money. Sung-dan didn't listen to his explanation, believing that he was not focused on his work. He angrily suspended him, telling him to stay at home and wait for a new job assignment. Tae-woong's mom planned to add fuel to the fire, giving her son the evidence that Kong-ju had secretly studied film. With the evidence, Kong-ju would definitely be fired, so Tae-woong could smoothly inherit Sung-dan's company. The two had just reunited, yet his mom only cared about Sung-dan's company, not saying a single word of warmth to him. Tae-woong was disappointed and didn't want to get involved any further, hoping that they wouldn't bother each other in the future. However, his mom insisted on giving him the evidence, saying that only money in this world was trustworthy. This was his way out. When Tae-woong returned to the laundromat, Darim's mom wanted to talk to him privately. She asked him how he had bought the entire building and where he had been these past few days. Tae-woong confessed everything. After leaving the orphanage, he had received a lump sum to support himself. Relying on stock investments, he had bought the entire building 3 years ago. He kept his secret because he was afraid that after becoming wealthy, he would lose his current loved ones, especially the love of Darim's mom. He had gone to meet his biological mom, but for him, his only real mom was Darim's mom, the one who had rescued and cared for him. Darim's mom watched Tae-woong cry and was very saddened. Whether Tae-woong had money or not, she would still treat him like her own son. Over on the other side, Charim's attitude toward Tae-woong also changed 180 degrees. In the following days, she especially wore nice clothes, hanging around Tae-woong. Seeing that Tae-woong wasn't paying attention to her, she called and invited him out, but Tae-woong was very cold towards her, not as he was before when he let her order him around. Darim knew Tae-woong had come home, running home and hugging him tightly. She comforted Tae-woong, saying that no matter who he was, his place in her heart would never change. Unlike Tae-woong, Kong-ju was still suspended from work, sitting at the front desk every day, being pointed at by employees. To comfort him, Darim brought him sushi that her mom had made for him to eat. Kong-ju thought that Darim had made it herself, so he, who had been having a poor appetite lately, finally had an appetite. Sitting on the stairs, the two fed each other, eating and talking while laughing. The atmosphere was joyful and relaxed. After they finished eating, to help Darim find a job, Kong-ju proactively helped her apply for jobs as a repair technician, delivery person, and fast food worker. During Kong-ju's suspension, Sung-dan investigated the IP address of the anonymous email and found that it originated in New York. Then, he heard Darim say that Tae-woong had gone to America to visit his biological mom a few days before. He immediately suspected that Tae-woong was behind this and called him, scolding him. Tae-woong angrily went to the company, admitting that he was behind it all. He wanted to drive Kong-ju out of the company so that the two wouldn't have peace. Kong-ju saw Tae-woong, reminding him not to come to the company unless he had something to do. Tae-woong deliberately provoked him, saying that he was the one who reported him, causing Kong-ju to lose his job. From now on, the two would rely on their abilities to get what they wanted. Seeing this, Darim stood between the two, trying to persuade them, but to no avail. Charim, hiding to the side, was secretly pleased because she admired the ambitious Tae-woong. Although she knew, Darim didn't believe that Tae-woong had written the accusatory letter. While eating with her sister, she talked about this. But Charim didn't care. As long as she could stir up Tae-woong's ambition to compete for the company, it was enough. While they were talking, Darim confessed to her sister that she liked Tae-woong. Hearing her say that, Charim wasn't surprised because everyone could see it. But everyone thought that her feelings for Taewon were just fraternal. Moreover, Taewon already had someone he liked, so she didn't have a chance. Darim was shocked, asking who Taewon liked and why she didn't know. However, Charim just smiled smugly and told her to go ask herself. Since learning about Taewon's identity, Charim had always been flattering him. Taewon was still angry that she had insisted on going on a blind date, so he was extremely cold towards her, no longer letting her order him around as before. Charim didn't care, believing that sooner or later, Taewon would be hers. Unlike her sister, Darim always wholeheartedly thought about Taewon. To clear his name, she investigated the time the anonymous email was sent and Taewon's plane ticket, discovering that when the email was sent, Taewon was on the plane. So, she hoped that Taewon would explain this to Sungdon. Taewon said that he had nothing to do with the anonymous email. Sungdon didn't want to acknowledge him anyway, so there was no need for him to humiliate himself by explaining. Seeing that Taewon didn't want to show himself, Darim enthusiastically took the time the email was sent and Taewon's plane ticket to Sungdon. During work, she proactively explained to Sungdon. At the same time, Mr. Kim, relying on the wedding money with the AA symbol that Rim had received, had targeted Darim's family for investigation. He pretended to come to wash clothes, and then, while Darim's aunt wasn't paying attention, took the memory card from the laundromat surveillance camera. Then, Mr. Kim called Kongju, saying that he had an important discovery and asking him to come to the loan shark company after he got off work. Kongju hung up, but he didn't expect Sungdon to also be in the bathroom and overhear his conversation. Sungdon had always thought that Kongju and his mom had given up on finding the stolen money, but he didn't expect that he was secretly investigating. He hated being deceived and was also very disappointed in Kongju, so their relationship became increasingly strained. After getting off work, Kongju went to find Mr. Kim, unaware that Sungdon was secretly following him. When Kongju arrived at the loan shark company, Mr. Kim told him that the laundromat surveillance camera had been replaced after the fire, but he had accidentally discovered a problem inside the laundromat. Kongju was about to review the camera footage when Sungdon suddenly appeared, confirming that Kongju was using these people to find the stolen money. Sungdon angrily left. Kongju panicked and chased after him to explain, but Sungdon was angry and didn't give him a chance, driving away. A little later, Kongju hurriedly chased home, seeing Sungdon packing his luggage. He said that he didn't want to live with the two people who were always lying to him. Kongju's mom quickly used her wits to save the situation, lying that she didn't know that Kongju was investigating the stolen money. To keep Sungdon in the house, she pretended to angrily kick Kongju out. After comforting Sungdon, Kongju's mom chased after and apologized to her son, telling him to stay at a hotel for a few days and to come home after Sungdon had cooled down. Being kicked out of the house, Kongju didn't know where to go, so that night, he slept at Mr. Kim's loan shark company. Just then, Mr. Kim was playing the surveillance video from Darim's laundromat. They didn't find any leads about the money, but they saw Sungdon taking off his shirt at the laundromat, so they suspected that Sungdon and Darim's mom were having an affair. Kongju explained that the two were university classmates, and that Sungdon might have just come to wash his shirt. But the paper bag on the table caught his attention because he recognized that it was the money that Rim had returned to Sungdon. So he wondered why Sungdon had given it back to Darim's mom. Carrying these unanswered questions, Kongju, who had been lazing around at the company all day, decided to proactively resign. Before leaving, he told Darim to take good care of the chairman and to put the chairman first. Then, Kongju returned to the design office, announcing that he was taking everyone out to eat. When the group arrived at the housekeeper's meat restaurant, Kongju announced his resignation to everyone. Charim knew that she shouldn't, but couldn't help but smile victoriously. As long as Kongju left the company, Taewon would have the opportunity to enter the company and become the heir. Darim got off work and saw Kongju sitting in the corner, dead drunk. She wanted to take Kongju home, but he cried, saying that he had lost everything. Darim couldn't move Kongju, so she called the housekeeper to help. The next day, Kongju woke up at the meat restaurant, eating breakfast when he saw Sungdon appear outside. He thought that Sungdon had come to visit him, but then saw him enter the laundromat to find Taewon. At this time, Kongju's mom came to find her son, seeing Sungdon and Taewon together. Angrily, she wanted to storm in to confront them. Seeing this, Kongju quickly held his mom back, so that she wouldn't do anything shameful. Kongju's mom knew that her son had been fired and still had to pay off 500 million won in student loans, feeling very wrong for her son. She felt sorry for Kangju, so she proposed divorcing Sungdon. In the past, she often talked about divorce but didn't really want a divorce. But this time, she was truly hurt by her husband's actions. Kangju had respected Sungdon since he was young, often saying that the most righteous thing his mom had done was marry this man. To not disappoint Sungdon, he had given up his favorite major. He had always worked very hard, afraid that if he didn't do well, he would make Sungdon unhappy. But the things Sungdon had done didn't deserve Kangju's respect. Over on the other side, Sungdon didn't know where he had gone wrong, angrily leaving. Kangju angrily went to find Taewon to accuse him, asking why Sungdon had come. Seeing a plane ticket on the table, he realized that the person suspected of sending the email that had accused him had been on the plane at the time. From that, it could be seen that the person who had sent the email wasn't Taewon. Kangju thought that Sungdon had personally investigated this matter to clear Taewon's name. Not only that, but he had also come to apologize to Taewon, making him even more heartbroken because this was the warmth that he had never felt before. At the same time, the housekeeper saw two hearts drawn with lipstick on Taewon's bathroom mirror. Knowing that it was done by her two daughters, she called them over, asking if they wanted to cling to Taewon after learning he was wealthy. Darim then realized that the heart had been drawn by her sister, learning for the first time that her sister also liked Taewon. Charim smugly told her mom and Darim that she and Taewon were currently in an ambiguous relationship. There were some recent conflicts, but they would soon make up and start dating officially. Hearing this, Darim was utterly shocked, never expecting that her sister was her rival. However, Charim didn't consider her a threat, always thinking that Darim saw Taewon as just a brother. Her mom thought so too. Darim angrily ran to find Taewon, asking if he liked Charim. Hearing this, Taewon calmly admitted that he used to, but those feelings were over now. Although they had broken up, he didn't like Darim either, only considering her like a younger sister. Darim was completely heartbroken. Crying, she ran outside and met Kangju. Earlier, Kangju had seen Sungdon drinking alone at a roadside restaurant, so he blamed him, saying that he was personally investigating to clear Taewon, valuing him more than he valued Kangju. Sungdon explained that Darim, believing Taewon was innocent, had compared the plane ticket and the time and had given him the evidence. Kangju, knowing he had blamed the wrong person, dejectedly went to find Darim to confront her. But he saw her crying. He took her to his car, asking what was wrong, but Darim didn't want to talk, so he waited outside until she stopped crying before asking her the reason. Darim told him everything, saying that Taewon didn't like her and only saw her as a younger sister. After that, Kangju remembered that he had something to do, so he secretly entered the laundromat from the back door, inserting the memory card into the camera. Before he could retreat, Darim's mom and the grandparents rushed in, startling him. He quickly found a place to hide. Lately, Murim had been suspicious of the wedding money. Seeing the names of deceased people and duplicate names in the book, he calculated but couldn't come up with the amount of 150 million, so he decided to investigate. Darim's mom told this to the grandparents, worried that Murim would continue to investigate. The three regretted digging up the entire 10 billion and then blamed the fire for burning 3 billion in the air conditioner. If they had used 800 million and then reburied the rest, they wouldn't have to worry so much now. Kangju, hiding in the dark, heard their conversation and was shocked. Then, Kangju thought about it and concluded that the driver and accomplice had buried the money in the mountains, and then Darim's mom dug it up and hid under the mattress. Now he just needed to confirm if the money under the mattress was the 50,000 bills with the AA symbol. He lurked at the meat restaurant, seeing everyone from the laundromat except Darim go home. He quickly followed her. Then he asked her to cook him some noodles, and then pretended to spill the noodles on his pants, asking her to find him his grandfather's pants to change into. While Darim went to find the pants, he snuck into the room. After changing, he was about to lift the mattress when the grandparents returned. Seeing him changing his pants in the house, they thought he had ulterior motives with Darim, so they kicked him out. Kangju continued to lurk, seeing the entire Darim family leave, with only the aunt staying home. He went back, lying to the meat restaurant, saying he had to bring over some kimchi. Taking advantage of the aunt not paying attention, he sneaked into the grandparents' room. This time, he successfully lifted the mattress, seeing all the 50,000 bills with the AA symbol. He took pictures of the money in the room. While leaving, he also took the key from the door. Kangju was conflicted, knowing the secret of Darim's family, that they had dug up the money to cure her eyes, which he had accidentally burned. If his mom knew, she wouldn't let it go, But how could he hide this from her? While Kongju had made a big discovery, his mom and Sungdan had signed the divorce papers. Kongju's mom wanted to sell the house, so Sungdan decided to buy it back. It turned out that Rim was the police officer in charge of investigating the burglary at Kongju's house. When he came to investigate again, he discovered that the wall behind the wardrobe was empty. Sungdan was worried that if he sold the house to someone else, the secret about the safe would be revealed. Kongju found his mom, advising her that even if they found the money, when the amount was revealed, the two wouldn't be able to pay the taxes. It was better to pretend that it had been stolen, so the two could give up the search. But his mom wasn't willing to let 10 billion disappear, resolutely refusing to give up. The two went to his maternal grandfather's grave, and she learned that the land around the grave belonged to her. Kongju came up with an idea. If he reported his mom, she would be arrested for tax evasion and have to pay 13 billion. In addition, Rim's mom and the two grandparents would also be taken to the police station. Because his mom was the owner of the money, he wanted to help his mom get back the money and then bury it on her land. Kongju sneaked into Rim's house when her whole family went to visit her brother, Rim. He was about to take the money from under the mattress when Rim's mom remembered that she had forgotten to bring a gift for her son-in-law's family. She told Rim to go back and get it. Rim had just returned home when she heard a noise in the room. Thinking a thief was breaking into the room, grabbed a pan and started hitting. Realizing that it was Kongju, she hit him while asking what he was doing here. Pushed to the edge, Kongju revealed the secret. The grandparents and Rim's mom had stolen money. To prove it, Kongju said that under the mattress there was 6.2 billion won in 50,000 bills with the AA symbol. Then, he flipped the mattress over. It wasn't until Rim saw it with her own eyes that she believed Kongju was telling the truth. Remembering that her mom had insisted on her getting surgery, and that the grandparents had comforted her, telling her not to worry about the 800 million borrowed. Now everything made sense to Rim. However, she believed in the character of her family, certain that they had dug up the money to cure her eyes. Seeing Kongju about to take the money away, Rim begged him to wait. The grandparents were old. If they suddenly found out that the money was gone, they would definitely be shocked and pass away. This was all her fault. She would think of a way to return the money. She hoped Kongju would give her some time. After hearing her, Kongju explained that his family was in chaos because the money was lost. Now was a good time to get the money back when her family wasn't home. While the two were arguing, Taewon came up, asking Rim if she had found the gift yet. To avoid being discovered, the two quickly put the mattress back in place before Taewon opened the door. Then, Rim hugged Kongju tightly, pretending that the two were having a romantic moment. Seeing this, Taewon angrily scolded Kongju, not letting Rim be close to him. Seeing this, Rim started acting, passionately confessing her love for Kongju, sending Taewon away. After Taewon left, Rim pushed Kongju out of the house, begging him to give her some time. Besides the 3 billion that Kongju had burned, she would personally give the remaining 6.2 billion plus the 800 million for the surgery to Kongju's mom. Then his mom could scold and punish her all she wanted. From that day on, Rim couldn't eat or sleep, feeling guilty that her loved ones had been branded as thieves because of her. Kongju was worried that Rim would bring the money to apologize to his mom. With his mom's personality, she would definitely cause a storm. He couldn't bear to see Rim suffer, so he warned her not to act recklessly. But before he could hang up, Rim had already brought the money. Then, she knelt to apologize to Kongju's mom. Seeing this, Kongju immediately interrupted her. Then, he winked at her and pulled her up. Kongju's mom didn't understand what the two were doing, asking Rim why she had come to see her with a suitcase. Rim was about to say that it was money, but Kongju loudly said, Rim and I are in love and are getting ready to travel. Kongju's mom was skeptical, asking Rim why she was kneeling in front of her. Kongju was afraid that everything would be exposed, so he quickly pushed Rim outside. Seeing his mom continuing to ask, he accidentally pushed his mom, causing her to fall. Then, he grabbed a suitcase and Rim and ran. After getting in the car, Kongju explained the reason he had hidden the truth. If she directly returned the money to his mom would be arrested for tax evasion. He had decided to bury the money next to his grandfather's grave and then find an opportunity to tell his mom. Rim, understanding, agreed to let Kongju handle this. Now, her family didn't know that the money under the mattress was gone. She was worried about how to explain it. The two were worried when Kongju received a call from the housekeeper, saying his mom had gone to the laundromat to cause trouble for Rim's mom. It turned out that the more Kongju's mom thought about it, the more she felt that something was off, believing that Darim bringing a suitcase to kneel in front of her had only one reason. She was pregnant. She scolded Darim's mom for not raising her daughter well, saying that a laundromat daughter dared to marry into her family. Darim's mom already didn't like Kangju because he had burned her $3 billion. Hearing Kangju's mom look down on her daughter, she immediately started fighting. Just arriving, Darim and Kangju saw the two moms arguing, so they quickly went to stop them. To appease the two, Kangju promised to break up with Darim immediately. Kangju worked hard to chase his mom away. Then, he went to Mr. Kim's company, borrowing a shovel. After quickly burying the money on the mountain, he told Mr. Kim that the person who stole the money wasn't Darim's family, and that this matter was over. No need to investigate anymore. Mr. Kim outwardly agreed, but wanted to get the $2 billion commission. He continued to investigate behind his back. In another development, Darim was planning to explain everything to the three adults when the grandfather discovered that the money under the mattress was gone. Too shocked, he fainted, so the family called an ambulance, taking him to the hospital. The doctor said that he wasn't sure if he would wake up and that the family needed to prepare themselves. Worried that Darim confessing everything would cause chaos for her family, Kangju went to the laundromat to check on things. Just arriving, he heard that her grandfather had fainted and the whole family was at the hospital. He rushed to the hospital and saw Darim crying in front of him, saying that if he didn't wake up, she would never forgive herself. Kangju, seeing Darim in pain, with tears in her eyes, couldn't bear to see her sad. After considering it, he dug up the money again, secretly putting it back onto the grandparents' mattress. The grandfather was treated and finally woke up, but the doctor told him to rest and avoid any excitement. After waking up, he quickly told his wife and daughter-in-law that the money was gone. The two didn't believe him. Besides the three of them, no one knew the money was hidden under the mattress, so they suspected that he was seeing things. Seeing that the two didn't believe him, he told them to go home and check. Before long, Darim's mom called her youngest daughter to the hospital to watch over her grandfather. Darim was worried that her mom and grandmother would go home to check the money, afraid they would find out that the money was gone. Her mom and grandmother went home, lifting the mattress and seeing that the money was still there. They confirmed that the grandfather was seeing things. To reassure him, her mom took a picture of the money, and her grandmother took 2 stacks of money, putting them in her bag. But the two didn't know that Darim's aunt's son saw this scene. Her mom and grandmother returned to the hospital, making an excuse to send them away so the three could have some time alone. Darim, hiding at the door, secretly saw her mom open the picture of the money and her grandmother take out 2 stacks of money, placing them in front of her grandfather. Seeing this, Darim was shocked and realized that Kangju had put the money back. Then, she called Kangju, knowing he was on her balcony. She rushed home. She entered the room, checked, and saw that the money was still under the mattress. Then, she went to the balcony, seeing Kangju, covered in mud and exhausted, collapse. She emotionally hugged him tightly and kissed him, thanking him for everything and promising to return the money to his mom. Kangju, exhausted, just wanted to sleep, so Darim took him into Tae-woong's room, getting his blanket for him. However, Kangju hadn't been asleep long when he was awakened by a phone call. He was surprised that his stepfather was calling him. Then, Sungdan told him to come home. Kangju thought that he had forgiven him. Unexpectedly, he said that he was planning to have Tae-woong enter the company to replace him. Not only that, but he also wanted Tae-woong to move back home to live with him. So, he was asking him to move out to give his room to Tae-woong. He could pursue his favorite major, film, in the future. The more his stepfather said, the more disappointed Kangju was. All along, to meet his stepfather's expectations, he had given up his dreams and entered the company to work. Now that he had found joy in his work, his stepfather was ruthlessly abandoning him. He vowed in front of his stepfather that he would start over and would definitely be successful enough to be recognized by him. Not knowing where to go, Kangju took his suitcase to Darim's house, asking to stay with her. Because Tae-woong had moved in with his stepfather, he could stay in his room. Then, he decided to use this as his place to start over and invited Darim to join him. Darim, seeing that he was serious, immediately agreed without thinking. Kangju told Darim his plan, also bringing the business plan that had been rejected by the company before, which he had personally made. He had an idea, but no distribution channel, so he wanted to start a business by selling things through live streaming. Darim was captivated by Kangju's enthusiastic appearance and unconsciously pinched his ear. Kangju, seeing Darim was shy, was happy because she finally saw him as a man. After Kongju left, Taewon officially started working at his father's company. Sungdon was very pleased with his quiet but decisive son, who was just like him. That day, Kongju happened to run into the two at a sauna. He still called Sungdon dad, because even though he had been kicked out, his respect for him had not diminished. He hoped that he and Taewon would become his father's strong right-hand men in the future. The next day, Kongju got right to work, quickly registering an online store, preparing to go with Darim on the weekend to pick up the goods to sell online. Just then, Darim came up with the idea of taking the clothes that customers had long forgotten in the laundromat storage room, ironing them, and then selling them online. That way, they could save some money on purchasing inventory, Darim said. Kongju vehemently opposed this. If the customers found out, not only would the online store's reputation be affected, but the laundromat would also be implicated. Then, he advised Darim to put the clothes back where they were so that others wouldn't find out. Darim verbally agreed, but secretly took pictures of the clothes and put them up for sale online. Charim and Taewon quickly recognized that the clothes were from the laundromat. Thinking that Kongju had stolen the clothes from the storage room to sell, Taewon decided to buy all the clothes to prevent the situation from spreading. Darim's family found out and immediately dragged Kongju to the laundromat. They already resented Kongju for burning their $3 billion, so they wouldn't let him off this time. To protect Darim for being blamed by her family, Kongju knelt down to apologize. When Darim found out and ran home, she only saw Kongju with swollen eyes and a haggard expression. Seeing this, she felt guilty, blaming herself for implicating Kongju. Kongju wiped away Darim's tears. He knew that she was doing this for him, so he couldn't say a word of reproach. Darim was touched by Kongju's thoughtfulness and couldn't help her feelings. "You're my hope. I like you," she said. Kongju had finally waited for Darim to confess her love. He emotionally pulled Darim closer, intending to kiss her, when a phone call interrupted them. Darim confessed to her mom that she was the one selling the customers' clothes, hoping her mom wouldn't blame Kongju. Now, Kongju had no home or family and needed someone by his side to encourage him. Even so, everyone still didn't like Kongju, reluctantly letting him stay in Taewon's room. After learning the truth, Taewon and Charim blamed Darim at the same time blamed Darim. Selling customers' clothes was the wrong thing to do. In addition, she shouldn't do business with Kongju, who wasn't trustworthy. Hearing everyone say that, Darim angrily called Kongju down to appease public opinion. The two agreed that they didn't care what other people thought and acted intimately. To defend Darim, Kongju angrily scolded everyone, criticizing Taewon for pretending to be poor and living with Darim's family with unfathomable motives. As for Charim, she used treacherous means to climb to the position of design director. The four attacked each other's weaknesses, eventually drunkenly helping each other home. Darim and her sister, Darim, and Taewon found places to sleep, while Kongju went around, eventually choosing to sleep in the place closest to the money, on the grandparents' bed. Darim woke up looking for Kongju everywhere. Seeing him being squeezed by the grandparents, she felt both amused and warm. She hoped that the grandparents would soon understand Kongju's sincere heart and truly accept him. The two were talking quietly, almost waking the grandparents, so Kongju quickly got up and ran away. Today, he had an appointment with a garment factory owner he had previously worked with. This person had a batch of clothes he wanted to sell to him cheaply. Hearing this, Darim insisted on going with him. Then, on the way, she proactively kissed Kongju, sharing her true feelings. She really liked it when the two worked together towards their dreams, and she really liked the feeling of being with him. Bringing the clothes home, Darim modeled them, and Kongju took pictures. Then, he quickly put them up for sale online. Because the styles were beautiful and the prices were reasonable, they were very successful on the first day. Kongju's mom learned that Taewon had moved back home, so she took her suitcase to return the money from selling the house to Sungdon, taking back the house for the two men to live in. Sungdon was tired of his wife's erratic changes. This time, the two had a big fight. They said harsh words to each other, saying all the nasty things they had been holding back. After fighting with Sungdon, Kongju's mom went upstairs to find Taewon, hoping he would voluntarily move out. Taewon didn't care where he lived. He just wanted to be with Sungdon. At the same time, he reminded Kongju's mom that her son was in his attic room and that the two had switched places. After the argument, Taewon went downstairs to comfort Sungdon. The argument had allowed him to see many different expressions on his face for the first time, no longer like a cold machine. He liked Sungdon so much that he blurted out the word dad. Sung-dan smiled, not expecting his wife to cause trouble to inadvertently resolve the conflict between him and Tae-woong. This was also the first time the two men had talked to each other so much. Then, he suggested that Kong-ju's mom stay, the three of them living together. But no matter how he tried to persuade her, Kong-ju's mom insisted on going to find her son. Hearing the adults, Darim hid under the bed. Kong-ju's mom entered the room, seeing her son living in such a small, messy room. She told him to come home to live. However, Kong-ju refused, because his career was just beginning and he couldn't quit halfway. Seeing her son like that, his mom told him to try a little longer. By the lunar month of May next year, the money would have been hidden for 15 years. Then, even if the whole country knew she was evading taxes, there was nothing they could do. At that time, she would report the theft to the police and get back the money that she and her son had lost. After Kong-ju's mom left, Darim, overhearing the conversation, was extremely worried. They had to return the money before Kong-ju's mom reported it to the police. Otherwise, her family would be punished by the law. Kong-ju hugged her, comforting her, saying that he would find more goods and try to make money to make up for it. The two were trapped in a dilemma. Darim quit her job at the company, wholeheartedly starting a business with Kong-ju. Kong-ju wanted to invite Charim to be the designer, but she looked down on him. Moreover, she wanted to help Tae-woong at the company, so she flatly refused. Seeing this, Kong-ju contacted the designer that Charim had been suppressing. This person was also looking for a job and immediately agreed. While Kong-ju and Darim were busy making money, the grandparents took out the mattress, counting the money. Originally, they had 6.2 billion won, but now there were only 5 billion won. The grandparents didn't understand what was going on. It turned out that the aunt's son had told her about the money hidden under the mattress. After divorcing her wealthy husband, the aunt had been raising her son alone, struggling greatly. Seeing the money, the aunt started secretly taking it out to spend. She had taken 1 billion. If it didn't stop her, the aunt would become more and more rampant. The adults in the house wanted to keep this a secret, avoiding implicating their children and grandchildren. Unexpectedly, the grandmother, having just had stomach surgery, became delirious, saying in front of her grandchildren that there was a lot of money under the mattress, and that she had taken 1 billion, with each of them getting 1 billion, and the rest going to Darim's mom. Charim heard her grandmother very clearly, and it didn't sound like she was joking, so she went to check herself. She flipped the grandparents' mattress over, seeing nothing out of the ordinary, so she thought she had been overthinking it. Then, she noticed that her mom, who didn't like to sleep on a mattress, had bought a new mattress. Because she was so curious, she secretly flipped her mom's mattress over check. In an instant, neatly arranged stacks of cash appeared before her eyes. Charim froze, her eyes widening. She stayed in the bedroom to count the money, but just as she finished counting, Kong-ju and Darim arrived. It turned out that their business had run into trouble, and they wanted to take a little money to make things work. The designer had designed a padded jacket style according to Kong-ju's request, putting it into production. Unexpectedly, 2 days later, when they contacted the factory to ask about the progress, they learned that the designer wouldn't let them produce the style. Kong-ju went to find the designer, who had returned to work for Sung-dan's company, asking her why she had betrayed him. The designer said that after being fired, she had thought there was nowhere for her to go, so she had come to work for Kong-ju, who knew that after working for only a short time, the company had called her back. Kong-ju's small company had no clear rules and no prospect for development. Of course, she had to choose the big company. Finally, she even said that she forbade Kong-ju from producing the style she had designed. Feeling guilty, the designer told Kong-ju that not every woman was as pragmatic as her. There were also people like Darim who didn't calculate gains and losses and were wholeheartedly devoted to others. It turned out that before, the designer had asked Darim if she was in love with Kong-ju. Darim had praised Kong-ju, saying that he was impeccable and that whether he was poor or sloppy, she liked him. Kong-ju was touched, but then sadness appeared on his face. Because the designer was gone, all their previous efforts had been for nothing. He didn't know how to tell Darim this bad news, because he was afraid she would be disappointed and heartbroken. While he was distraught, his mom called, asking him to come home immediately. Just stepping through the door, he was forced by his mom to move back in and was told not to go near Darim. Not long ago, Kong-ju's mom had gone to Kong-ju's room, happening to see Darim cleaning and doing laundry for him. In his mom's eyes, Darim wasn't good enough for her son. Everything she did was just trying to seduce Kong-ju to change her life. Kong-ju knew that Darim had been given a hard time by his mom and angrily left to find her. Then, he saw a familiar figure in front of the convenience store. The words of his mom made him understand Darim's feelings for him. Darim, a little shy, mustered all her courage and confessed that she had loved Kangju for a long time. Before she could finish, she had taken the initiative to kiss him. How could Kangju stop there? He reached out and cupped her face, kissing her deeply. After the passionate kiss, Kangju and Darim were troubled again because they hadn't found a designer. If they continued to delay, the factory wouldn't hold their production slot. Kangju planned to take some money from under the mattress to make a deposit, so he and Darim hurried into the bedroom. Just then, they saw Charim counting money and announcing that there was a total of 5.2 billion won. Hearing this number, the two were suspicious because the amount was clearly wrong. Charim, hearing their words, knew that they had found out about the money. Angrily, she planned to go find her mom to get to the bottom of it. Hearing this, Kangju quickly picked her up and took her downstairs, personally telling her the whole story. Darim was sorry for hiding it from her, afraid of implicating her. Unexpectedly, she had accidentally discovered secret. Not only that, but Kangju also said that on the 1st of next month, his mom would go to the police to file a report. They had to gather enough money to return to his mom before that day. Otherwise, the grandparents and Darim's mom would be considered thieves. Kangju suggested that, since he and Darim needed a designer, they should invite Charim to join their company. Charim had just gained a foothold at the company and didn't want to give up her career to save her family from prison. She went to find Taewon, borrowing money to make up the initial amount. Taewon was already unhappy with Charim's greed for money. Without asking the reason for borrowing the money, he scolded her for only thinking about money. Charim's pride was severely hurt. Returning to the company, she submitted her resignation. Sungdan knew that Charim had resigned to go to Kangju's company, so he angrily called him over. Upon meeting, he scolded him for stealing the talent he had painstakingly trained. Kangju didn't know what to say, stammering that he really needed money. Sungdan angrily warned him that opposing him would not end well. In another development, Darim remembered that when her sister had counted the money, she had said the current amount was 5.2 billion, but in reality, it should have been 6.2 billion. The grandparents and her mom hadn't touched the money, so the problem was very likely with her aunt. After a long discussion, the two sisters decided to secretly follow her. The aunt, taking advantage of no one being home, took a bag to put the money in to spend. Just then, the two sisters seized the opportunity, rushing out and catching their aunt red-handed in her bad behavior. Charim seriously told her aunt that this money was stolen money and had to be returned. Otherwise, the whole family would have to go to jail. Then, she forced her to return the 1 billion she had taken. The aunt reluctantly took the two to the closet, but when she opened it, it was empty. The 1 billion had disappeared without a trace. The three wanted to see the surveillance cameras from the shopping center, but the manager said that, according to the rules, there had to be a police officer present to view the cameras. The aunt wanted to ask Murim, who was a police officer, for help, but the two sisters opposed it. Their brother was a law enforcement officer, but their family was stealing money, so they couldn't say anything. They absolutely couldn't implicate their brother. The three sighed, returning home, telling Kangju about this trouble. At first, they just needed to earn 4 billion to make up for the missing money. Now, they had to earn another billion. What was even more difficult was that Sungdan wouldn't accept Charim's resignation. If so, they couldn't use Charim's designs. The next day, Sungdan called Charim over, asking the reason she had resigned. Charim said that she wanted to protect her family, so she had decided to earn money with Kangju. Seeing that she was so determined, Sungdan had to approve her resignation. With January 1st getting closer and closer, Kangju, to stall for time, recklessly snuck back home, stealing the will that his maternal grandfather had left his mom. Without this important evidence, his mom wouldn't be able to report to the police right away. Unexpectedly, his sneaky actions were accidentally seen by the housekeeper. Kangju begged the housekeeper not to tell his mom that he had returned. Unexpectedly, the housekeeper turned around and sold him out, saying that Kangju seemed to have taken something. Hearing this, Kangju's mom quickly went to check for the will, and sure enough, it was gone. She angrily went to Kangju's place, hitting her son and demanding that he hand over the will. Kangju gritted his teeth, resolutely denying it. With no other choice, his mom angrily left. To make money quickly, Kangju disregarded everything and produced a padded jacket designed by Charim, starting to sell on livestream. Charim was quite well known in the design industry, so the padded jackets were immediately sold out as soon as the livestream started. The first livestream easily made 2 million won. The three were so moved that they cried. Striking while the iron was hot, They immediately signed a contract for a second live stream. While the three were working hard to make money, the aunt went to the hospital to visit the grandparents. She felt guilty for losing 1 billion won, but didn't dare to tell the two. The two grandparents seemed to have expected it, taking 1 billion from the closet and giving it to her, telling her to take the money and take her son far away. At this time, the aunt suddenly realized that the money she had hidden in the closet had been taken by the grandparents. The two grandparents, seeing that hiding the money in the closet wasn't safe, had brought the money to the hospital, planning to find an opportunity to give it to her. The aunt was about to say that the money was stolen money, but thinking about the two sisters, Darim, who were trying to return the money for her sake, the aunt swallowed the words and happily took the money and left. After she left, the aunt still felt guilty and gave the money to Kongju. Holding the money, Kongju happily hugged the aunt, thanking her repeatedly. However, this scene was seen by Ki-dung, the owner of the meat restaurant next door. Ki-dung and the aunt had feelings for each other, but before, the aunt had planned to leave Ki-dung and go abroad. These past few days, Ki-dung had been sad, drinking all day. Seeing Kongju hug her, Ki-dung thought she had found someone new, angrily rushing out, dropping the box he was holding. In an instant, countless cash bills fell out from inside, scattering everywhere. Afraid of causing a commotion, Kongju pulled Ki-dung into the house, along with Darim and the aunt, explaining the whole story. Ki-dung didn't expect Darim's family to be involved in the theft, so he planned to report it to the police. The worried aunt quickly confessed her feelings to Ki-dung, begging him not to report it to the police. They would return the money soon. The next day, the grandmother was discharged from the hospital. Darim's mom made a meal, so Charim called Taewon over, announcing that the two were dating. It turned out that after being rejected for a loan, Charim had left the company. Taewon then saw the drive for progress in her. What Taewon had liked in the first place was this Charim, so he had proactively pursued her. The two had misunderstood each other before, and finally opened their hearts and got together. Darim saw the two displaying their affection and, not to be outdone, called Kongju down. Darim's mom still didn't like Kongju, so in front of Darim, she treated them differently. She was kind and caring towards Taewon, but mocked Kongju relentlessly. Darim said that before long, her mom would see Kongju's good points. Soon after, Kongju's padded jacket began its second live stream. The profits from the two live streams, plus the 1 billion the aunt had returned, were finally enough money. Kongju quickly took all the money from under Darim's mom's mattress and hurriedly found a professional money laundering company. He successfully exchanged all the money he had earned for 50,000 won bills with the AA symbol. After that, he carried 2 big bags of money home, telling Darim to tell everyone that from now on, the two families wouldn't have to worry about this money. At this time, Kongju's mom was discussing countermeasures with her lawyer about filing a lawsuit. Even though the will was lost, she had an agreement with the driver, who was in prison, who had stolen the money. He would come out and testify that Kongju's maternal grandfather had left her 10 billion won. In exchange, she would pay off his 1 billion won in gambling debts. After the clock struck midnight on January 1st, the statute of limitations for tax evasion would expire. She would immediately report to the police. Kongju calculated that after his mother and lawyer finished discussing it, he would return the money to his mother. However, an unexpected incident happened when Darim's mom went to pay the hospital fees for her grandmother. The money in the card wasn't enough, so she had to use the 50,000 bills that her grandfather had just given her. Just then, her brother's mother-in-law appeared, accusing her of theft. Without saying a word, she took her to the police station. It turned out that, recently, while investigating the burglary at Kongju's house, the police chief had followed a lead and identified Darim's mom as a suspect, just waiting to catch her red-handed. Seeing his mom being arrested, Darim frantically called Kongju. With things having come to this, Kongju had to change his plans. Hurriedly taking the 2 bags of money to the car, he repeatedly apologized to his mom, blaming himself for not being a good son. Kongju's mom didn't understand what he was saying, but saving people was more important. Kongju didn't have time to explain. Before leaving, he told his mom to be sure to report it to the police. Darim's mom was taken to the police station, but just as she reached the door, a lawyer came to greet her, going inside with her. The lawyer said that he was entrusted by Kongju to help her. Not only that, but he also conveyed Kongju's words, advising her not to say anything. Darim's entire family was in turmoil. Taewon and Sungdan received the news and immediately went to the police station, but the police chief was personally interrogating Darim's mom. forbidding anyone from getting close. At this time, Kangju hurriedly went to find the grandparents, pulling the two up the mountain, planning to rebury the money. Only this could save Darim's mom. The two grandparents knew that things had been exposed and, without a word, hurriedly followed Kangju up the mountain. Kangju was worried that he couldn't carry 2 bags of money, so he called Kidung to help. The four hurried to the burial site and then strenuously dug a hole to bury the money. They were racing against time. Just after midnight, Kangju's mom arrived at the police station on time to report the crime. Just entering, she saw Sungdan and Darim's family were all there. She didn't care, telling the police chief that she had lost 10 billion, not 1 million. The police chief didn't like her evading taxes and argued with her. The police chief stated that they had discovered the hiding place for the money, but it was empty. Kangju's mom didn't believe him, demanding that the police chief dig again in front of her. The police chief had no other choice but to lead her up the mountain. Sungdan, knowing what was happening, called Kangju, explaining the situation. If this matter were exposed, the whole country would know that his mom was a tax evader. Kangju was still strenuously digging a hole on the mountain. He begged Sungdan to be by his mom's side, not letting her suffer alone. After saying that, he hung up. Sungdan and Kangju's mom had gotten into the police car. The police chief led the people and Kangju's mom up the mountain to dig for the money. She knew that there was no money here, telling the subordinates to do it half-heartedly, while she would return to interrogate Darim's mom. Unexpectedly, the metal detector quickly made a sound, and the police dug up 2 large bags, inside which was all the cash. Kangju's mom saw that it was all 50,000 won bills with the AA symbol, confirming that it was her money, and happily laughed. The police chief was very surprised, reminding her not to be happy yet, because there was no evidence to prove that this money was hers. Just as he finished, the police found Kangju's maternal grandfather's will in Kangju's mom's bag. Kangju's mom smiled brightly, saying, "There is clear evidence. Now it can be confirmed that this money is mine." The police chief took the people and the money back to the police station, needing to complete the procedures before returning the money to Kangju's mom. At this time, Darim and the others were still waiting at the police station. Seeing the police bring back 2 large bags of money, she immediately realized that Kangju had reburied the money to save her mom. Tears of gratitude fell as she was thankful that Kangju had protected her family. Finally, Darim's mom was released because there was no evidence to prove she stole the money. Knowing that everyone in the family knew about stealing the money, she left the police station in shame through the back door. Kangju and Ki-dung took the grandparents to the police station to pick up Darim's mom. Halfway there, they met her. Darim's mom hugged her grandmother, crying. The 3 all felt that they didn't dare to face their family, especially Kangju, whom they had treated so badly before. The adults didn't expect that the person who helped them escape punishment was Kangju. When Darim found Kangju, 1,000 words couldn't express her feelings. She was worried that Kangju would be blamed by his mom, so she wanted to sincerely apologize to his mom. Hearing this, Kangju comforted his girlfriend, "Don't think about anything. Just let me handle it. I'll go home and apologize." After saying that, the loving couple temporarily put aside their worries, hugging and sharing a sweet kiss. The next morning, at breakfast, the 3 adults expressed regret for their mistakes. Darim also apologized, saying that it was all because of her illness that everyone had been implicated. Then, she advised everyone to take this opportunity to travel and relax. After hearing this, Darim's mom refused, determined to work as normal. The next day, Kangju returned home, observing his mom's attitude. His mom suspected that Kangju had stolen the will and then buried the money there, so she angrily slapped her son, forcing him to tell the truth. Kangju resolutely refused to admit it, saying that he didn't know anything. Unexpectedly, a tabloid reporter had published a report about Kangju's mom evading taxes, implicating Sungdan, who lived with her. He was even pelted with eggs in public. People came to their house, scolding them for being tax-evading criminals. Kangju's mom didn't dare to leave the house. She barely managed to get out once, but as soon as the car left the parking garage, it was surrounded, frightening her. She hurriedly turned back. The matter spread further and further online, with articles all over the internet scolding Kangju's mom, attacking her online, leaving her restless. Darim's mom came to deliver clothes to Kangju's mom, but when she rang the doorbell, no one answered. Thinking that no one was home, she was about to leave when Kangju's mom secretly came out, saying that she didn't dare to leave the house now. Just then, some women carrying tomatoes and eggs pelted Kangju's mom. Seeing this, Darim's mom quickly shielded her so that she wouldn't be hit by the rotten eggs. Kongju's mom saw that Darim's mom's head was covered in filth and felt guilty for implicating her. Now, Darim's mom felt ashamed, knowing that her family was also responsible for things turning out this way. The person who deserved to be punished was her, the one who had stolen the money, not Kongju's mom. After that, Kongju's mom took Darim's mom into the house, wiping the dirt off her clothes. She asked why her children had been at the police station when she had gone to report the crime. Darim's mom didn't dare to tell the truth, lying that they had been accused by a customer of the laundromat, so she had gone to the police station. Hearing her say that, someone who didn't know anything, like Kongju's mom, naturally believed her. While the two women were talking, Sungdan and Taewon came home. Darim's mom had no reason to stay any longer and hurriedly said goodbye and left. Kongju's mom asked Sungdan why he had also been at the police station that day. Sungdan quickly explained that there had been a theft at the laundromat, so he went with Taewon to check on things. Kongju's mom was suspicious because this explanation was completely different from what Darim's mom had said. Taewon found all sorts of reasons to explain, finally causing Kongju's mom to no longer pay attention to this matter. On the other hand, to win over Darim's family, Kongju began helping out at the laundromat. He not only learned how to do laundry, iron, and deliver clothes, but also scheduled a dermatology appointment for Darim's mom, advising her to use a laser to remove the redness on her face. Seeing that the grandfather wanted to go to the bathhouse, he proactively went with him, scrubbing his back, winning over the grandparents. The grandparents were very pleased with him, but in their hearts, they were still worried about the two. Kongju was the son of the person who had been robbed. Darim was the daughter of the thief. If one day, Kongju's mom learned that Darim's family had stolen the money, she definitely wouldn't let Darim off. After thinking carefully, the grandparents advised Darim to proactively break up. But Darim and Kongju were truly in love, so she had decided that no matter what anyone said, she would only marry him in this life. On his days off, Kongju often took the opportunity to go home and visit his mom. Once, he stayed for dinner. During the meal, his mom and Sungdan argued. Both thought that they were the owner of the house and told the other to move out. After dinner, Sungdan and Taewon discussed with Kongju about buying his small company. In the future, the three could work together to develop the company into something bigger. Kongju said that they had already given all the money he had earned to his mom, and that he currently owed the factory money. If they wanted to buy it, they would have to take on that debt. Sungdan immediately agreed. Taewon also thanked Kongju for what he had done for Darim's family. Not only that, but he also proactively apologized for having had prejudices against him before. Coming home from his stepfather's house, Kongju went to Darim's place. Unexpectedly, his mom had come to the housekeeper's restaurant. The restaurant was located near the laundromat, so Kongju's mom saw her son and Darim's mom talking and laughing happily. Not only that, Kongju was also considerately peeling mandarin oranges and feeding them to Darim's mom. This scene made Kongju's mom uncomfortable because her son had never treated her like that. The housekeeper told her that now, Kongju was like a son to Darim's family. From doing laundry and deliveries to taking care of the elderly, he knew how to do everything. Kongju's mom suddenly remembered the money that the housekeeper had returned to her before, some of which had the AA symbol. At that time, the housekeeper had said it was money from a customer paying, so she asked about the source of the money again this time. The housekeeper told the truth. The money was given to her by Darim's mom. Kongju's mom froze, a bold guess forming in her mind. To confirm it, she went to ask the lawyer when Darim's mom had been released from the police station. The lawyer said that she had been released right after the police had dug up the money on the mountain. Moreover, Kongju had spent a lot of money hiring a lawyer for Darim's mom. Putting everything together, Kongju's mom guessed that Darim's mom had stolen her money, but was discovered by the police. Kongju had reburied the gathered money to save Darim's mom from prison. To find out the truth, Kongju's mom, while her son was sound asleep, snuck into his room, looking at his phone. The chat log between Kongju and Darim clearly recorded the truth of the matter. She tried to suppress her emotions, taking screenshots of the chat log and immediately going to the police station to report the crime. Kongju, groggily sleeping, felt like someone had come into his room. He opened his eyes, seeing the phone screen lit up, stopped on the chat log between him and Darim. He immediately realized the danger and hurriedly chased after her, but couldn't stop his mom. Kongju followed her to the door of the police station, begging her not to report to the police. However, his mom was too heartbroken and didn't want to hear him say another word. While the two were arguing, The police chief suddenly appeared like a savior. Kongju's mom was about to give the evidence to the police chief, but Kongju begged his mom, promising to break up with Darim and never go near the laundromat again, only begging her not to report to the police. His mom looked at him deeply, deciding to give him another chance to start over. Then, Kongju's mom woke up Sungdan, who was fast asleep, scolding him, saying that everyone knew the truth except her. To protect the thief's family, he had heartlessly let her be exposed to the public and attacked online. She couldn't swallow this anger. She would go to the police station tomorrow to accuse Darim's mom. Sungdan advised her that, given the current situation, the money would soon be recovered. If this became a theft case involving Darim's mom, it would need to be reinvestigated. If that happened, the money wouldn't be able to return to Kongju's mom right away. More importantly, among that money, 4 billion had been made up by Kongju himself. If it were found out that the money was Kongju's, things would become even more complicated. Maybe she would even have to pay 4 billion in gift taxes. Hearing this, Kongju's mom temporarily fell silent, but she wasn't willing to let Darim's family off the hook. After Kongju and Darim broke up, she would think of a way to report it to the police. Taewon, standing outside the door, overheard the conversation and knelt down, begging Kongju's mom to spare Darim's family. He was willing to pay any price. Kongju's mom was angry about this, flatly refusing. The next day, Kongju's mom came to pick up her son, and Taewon was never to be seen with them. Before everyone's stunned eyes, seeing Darim's mom, she gritted her teeth, barely able to restrain her anger. Kongju prepared himself for a long time, determined to say goodbye to Darim, but Darim didn't pay any attention, thinking that he was just playing trick. After failing the first time, Kongju drank alcohol, mustering the courage to propose breaking up again. It should have been a sad, heart-wrenching atmosphere, but under Darim's spell, Kongju surrendered. After all that, he realized that he couldn't say the words, "Let's break up," to Darim. Kongju's mom, knowing that it wasn't easy to break up with her son, just sighed while the housekeeper chatted with her to cheer her up. Kongju's mom told everything that Darim's mom had stolen the money, even that Kongju had buried the money to save Darim's mom. The housekeeper couldn't believe that the family next door was thieves. Returning home, she told her son, Ki-dong, this secret. Unexpectedly, Ki-dong calmly told her not to tell anyone, because he and Kongju had buried the money together. Hearing this, the housekeeper angrily stormed over to scold Darim's mom. She had already stolen money, and now she had implicated her son. Kongju's mom knew the truth, forcing Kongju and Darim to break up. It was all because of her. Darim's mom didn't expect that everything had been exposed. To be forgiven by Kongju's mom, she knelt to apologize. Darim, hearing Ki-dong's account, went to find her mom and also knelt to apologize to her. Then, Darim explained that if it hadn't been for curing her eyes, her mom wouldn't have stolen the money. Kongju's mom could punish her however she wanted, only asking her to spare her mom. Hearing this, Kongju's mom then demanded that Darim break up with her son. Not only that, but her whole family had to move because she didn't want to see the thief's family anymore. Kongju returned, seeing Darim kneeling on the ground, crying. His eyes also reddened, but at this time, if he spoke up for Darim, it would only make his mom even angrier. Darim and her mom returned home, telling everyone the situation. That night, Darim started packing, completely ending things with Kongju. Knowing the two were about to be separated, Kongju went to see Darim one last time. The two reminisced about their sweet memories, shedding tears together. They were reluctant to part, but to protect their families, this was the only way. The next day, Darim's mom put the laundromat and the house up for sale. At the same time, looked for a new house, preparing to move. The grandparents lay in bed, regretting everything. It was all because they had given rise to greed and stolen the money. Their greed had caused Darim's mom to become a thief, hurting Kongju and causing Darim to have to break up. To protect their children and grandchildren, the two wrote a letter of repentance to Kongju's mom, confessing that they were the real thieves. So, they hoped that their departure to the afterlife could atone for their sins. Sungdan saw the letter in the mailbox, sensing that something was wrong, and hurriedly brought the letter to Darim's mom. After reading the letter, Darim's mom was worried that something would happen to the grandparents and became extremely panicked. Reminded by Sungdan, she called her son, who was a police officer. Fortunately, the taxi driver waiting for the grandparents recognized that the two were intending to do something foolish, so he didn't stop the car on the bridge. Instead, he took the two home. Darim's mom saw that the grandparents were safe crying and holding their hands. She didn't want anything, only hoping that they would live healthily and that the whole family could be reunited. At the same time, the police chief still hadn't given up on her suspicions of Darim's mom. After investigating, she finally found incriminating evidence. Last time, because of the wedding money, Murim had become suspicious. After investigating thoroughly, his mom confessed to the whole process of stealing the money. In Murim's car, because of personal feelings, he had deleted the recording from the car's black box. Unexpectedly, the careful police chief had someone restore the car's black box in Murim's car. Hearing Darim's mom's entire confession, she immediately led the police to arrest the family. His daughter and son-in-law advised her to consider her face in Murim's and not act recklessly. But the police chief scolded her daughter, telling her not to forget her responsibilities as a police officer. Moreover, she hadn't liked Murim as a son-in-law to begin with. After that, the police chief led the people to Darim's house, handcuffing the grandparents and her mom for the crime of theft and arresting Murim for abusing his authority. Not only that, but she and the two sisters, Darim, were also arrested for harboring criminals. The news of Darim's entire family being arrested caused a stir in the neighborhood, with everyone rushing out to watch. At this time, Kangju came to stop the police chief because his mom hadn't reported to the police, proving that she had forgiven Darim's family. Without a complaint from the victim, she had no reason to arrest them. He was the son of the victim and the person who had personally rebared the money. He could prove that his mom wouldn't pursue the matter anymore. In just one morning, Darim and Kangju's families were arrested and taken to the police station. Kangju, as the son of the victim, requested leniency, but the police chief refused, saying that whether or not to grant leniency was up to the owner of the money. Just then, Kangju's mom received the news and hurriedly went to the police station to assess the situation. Originally, after the investigation of the case was completed, she would receive her money back. But now, because Darim's family was under investigation, she could only wait for the case to conclude before receiving her money back. She angrily resented Darim's family and also hated her son. In the end, Kangju's mom resolutely refused to reconcile, demanding harsh punishments and demanding that these people pay the price. Receiving the victim's request, the police chief immediately investigated everyone involved in the case. The verdict was quickly delivered. Murim was stripped of his police rank for abusing his authority. The grandparents and mom, though guilty of theft, hadn't used the stolen money for personal gain, had no prior criminal record, and had returned all of the money, so they were each sentenced to 1 year in prison. Darim and Kangju were innocent, so they were released. Murim's wife, Suji, didn't agree with her mom's actions. The police chief reminded her not to forget her responsibilities as a police officer. Incidentally, since the two hadn't registered their marriage, she demanded that they break up. However, Suji refused, saying that even if Murim was no longer a police officer, she wouldn't leave him. After the three adults went to prison, Kangju unilaterally announced the cancellation of his agreement with his mom and that he wouldn't break up with Darim. Worried that if she continued to be involved, Kangju and his mom would become estranged. Darim, then, wanting what was best for her boyfriend, tearfully said goodbye to him. Seeing the look of love in her eyes, Kangju knew Darim was lying. To get her to take back the breakup, he pretended to be a customer, going to the furniture store where Darim worked just to be with her a little longer. Returning home, he flattered his mom, lamenting that Darim wouldn't pay any attention to him, and then asked his mom for advice. His mom was annoyed by him, but while still disagreeing with his relationship with Darim, the relationship between the two gradually improved. With the theft case closed, the police chief informed Kangju's mom to come to the police station to receive her money. Kangju took his mom, ensuring he would get her and the money safely to the bank. He put the 2 bags of money in the car. His mom sat in the back seat, hugging the money, overjoyed that the 10 billion that she had yearned for day and night had finally returned to her. This was the happiest moment of her life. However, the two didn't know that Mr. Kim and his men were following their every move. Before, Kangju's mom had promised that if Mr. Kim found the money for her, she would give him 2 billion. Mr. Kim still hadn't received the money. In between, there had even been conflicts with Kangju's mom. Kangju's mom angrily accused Mr. Kim of working at a loan shark company to the bank where he worked, causing him to be fired. Mr. Kim held a grudge, always following Kangju's mom, vowing to get the money back. A little later, Mr. Kim blocked Kangju's car, demanding that the two hand over the money. Kangju's mom was scared, but Kangju calmly told his mom that after he got out of the car, she should immediately get in the front seat and drive to the bank. Kangju had just gotten out of the car when he was attacked, but he still tried to hold them back, shouting loudly for his mom to quickly drive away. Kangju's mom followed her son's words, stepping on the gas and speeding towards the bank, while Kangju grabbed the car keys from Mr. Kim, stopping him from chasing after her, buying time for his mom. Mr. Kim angrily took a stick and hit Kangju, causing his head to be covered in blood. Driving for a while, Kangju's mom suddenly came to her senses. She couldn't let her son be in danger to protect the money. She hurriedly turned the car around, returning to the scene to find Kangju, but didn't see him or Mr. Kim anywhere. At this time, Kangju's mom received a call from the police, saying that Kangju had been taken to the hospital. His life was in danger. Kangju's mom hurriedly went to the hospital. The police said that when they received the report and arrived at the scene, the perpetrators had already fled. They said that when he was hit, Kangju was still tightly clutching the keys to the other person's car. Kangju's mom was in extreme pain. Kangju was hurt because he was protecting her. It was all her fault. The doctor said that Kangju's surgery was successful, but unfortunately, he had suffered a head injury. Even the doctor didn't know if or when he would wake up. Seeing him lying still in a hospital bed, everyone worried about Kangju. Sungdan, hearing that Mr. Kim and his 2 accomplices had been arrested, stormed into the police station, hitting them and asking why they had hurt his son. Mr. Kim sowed discord, saying that they only wanted the money and didn't intend to hurt Kangju. It was Kangju's mom who only cared about the money and didn't care about her son's life. Hearing this, Sungdan returned to the hospital, scolding Kangju's mom, saying she wasn't fit to be a mother. At this time, Kangju's mom was also extremely regretful, frantically taking the money out of her bag. It was she and this money that had caused Kangju to end up like this. If anything happened to Kangju, she would never forgive herself. Not long after, Darim heard that Kangju had had an accident and hurriedly went to the hospital, but Kangju's mom still had prejudices against her, believing that she was a jinx. Ever since meeting her, her son had been having bad luck, so she wouldn't let her visit Kangju. The 3 adults of Darim's family, hearing that Kangju had had an accident, also sincerely prayed for him. It was all because of them. If Kangju didn't wake up, they would live in regret for the rest of their lives. A few days later, Kangju was transferred to a regular hospital room. The doctor told Kangju's mom that whether or not Kangju would wake up depended on his will to live. Kangju's mom remembered her son's wish to be with Darim. With no other choice, she had to beg Darim to come talk to Kangju. She knew that Kangju liked her a lot, so he would definitely want to wake up. Finally, Darim was able to see Kangju. She cried, begging him to open his eyes and look at her, but all in vain. Kangju still showed no signs of waking up. After getting permission from his parents, Darim diligently went to the hospital to visit Kangju every day. After many days of going to the hospital through rain or shine to take care of her boyfriend, Kangju's mom gradually accepted her. In the following days, the 2 often ate together and confided in each other. They both hoped that magic would intervene so that Kangju would wake up soon. Several weeks had passed, but her son still showed no signs of waking up. Kangju's mom suddenly thought that maybe Darim's actions still weren't enough. After thinking for a long time, she finally came up with a bold idea. If Darim were willing to do things that would stimulate Kangju more, like kiss him, then her son might wake up sooner. Darim, being a well-behaved and obedient girl, immediately followed the advice of her future mother-in-law. However, no matter how much she kissed him, Kangju wouldn't wake up. Of course, because this was reality, not the life in the story of the Frog Prince. Seeing her son lying motionless in the hospital bed, the heart of a mother couldn't help but ache. With no other choice, at this time, she could only vow in front of the hospital bed that if Kangju woke up, she would donate all the money she had to a charity foundation to help children with eye problems like Darim. If medical skills couldn't help her son wake up, then she could only resort to magic. Then, the heavens heard Kangju's mom's very sincere prayer. The moment she finished, one of his fingers suddenly twitched. Under the watchful eyes of the 2 most important women in his life, Kangju finally opened his eyes. Overjoyed, Darim and Kangju's mom could only hug each other and cry. After a long conversation, Kangju's mom finally saw the deep affection her son had for Darim. Not wanting to continue being a third wheel, she found an excuse to leave so the young couple could have some time alone. After experiencing so many ups and downs in life, the young lovers were finally able to be together openly. The next day, the police chief personally visited Darim's mom in prison to check on her. As a police officer, she couldn't sacrifice her professional ethics for personal feelings. The laws couldn't accommodate human feelings, so she hoped that Darim's mom could understand her. However, instead of resentment, Darim's mom was incredibly grateful to the police chief. It was because of the police chief that she had the opportunity to live according to her conscience one more time. After paying the price for her mistakes, she finally felt that her conscience was no longer tormented. Time flew by as fast as a bike without brakes going downhill. In the blink of an eye, the long 12-month sentence had gently passed. The grandparents and Darim's mom had been released from prison after serving 1 year. On the day the three were released, their children and grandchildren brought hot tofu, waiting in front of the prison doors. After many months of hardship, their lives had now returned to their original tracks. Only Kongju was dissatisfied with his mom's actions. She had promised to donate all the money she had to children with eye problems, but a year had passed, and she had only donated 800 million won. Seeing his mom not being truthful, Kongju advised her that one should live an honest life. The more her son blamed her, the more Kongju's mom felt confused. Although she had promised, she thought that just doing it symbolically was enough. She had worked so hard to get this money, so she couldn't bear to donate it all. The next day, when Kongju's mom went to the hospital, the doctor showed her a very special video. In the video was a little girl who had been helped by her to have eye surgery. Thanks to Kongju's mom's donation, the little girl had the opportunity to see the light again. So, the little girl was very grateful for her kind heart. She promised that in this life, she would never forget Kongju's mom's kindness. Thanks to this video, Kongju's mom felt the value of herself. After thinking for a long time, she decided to spend money to help another patient. Thanks to her money, there would be one more person who had the opportunity to see the light, making their lives brighter. Over on the other side, Darim's laundromat had reopened and was more prosperous than ever. Every day, Suji went there through rain or shine, wholeheartedly seeking out Murim. She wanted to use practical actions to prove her feelings for him. No matter what happened, she would never leave him. Feeling the sincere feelings that Suji had for him, Murim suddenly turned and hugged her tightly. Even though he had been stripped of his rank, even though he was no longer a police officer, he wouldn't let her suffer. He would use his own 2 hands to bring her a warm and happy life. In another development, after a long period of dating, Charim and Taewon had decided to get married. That day, Sungdan personally took his 2 sons to Darim's house to meet them. Now, both Taewon and Kongju were his strong right-hand men at work. Sungdan had also decided to retire, handing the company over to his 2 sons to enjoy his old age. At Darim's family's small house, it was now always full of laughter. Everyone was full of hope for a bright and radiant future. As for the 2, Kongju and Darim, they would also soon have a dream wedding. Today's drama ends here. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to watch.